Give us a little show here, Tom. Show us what it looks like.
Ninja.
So what's it called? A click clack?
I think that's called the walk or the talk or the walk and the talk. I'm
walk
not
and talk.
sure. But that's like slip joint. That's slip joint world. I don't want to, get messed up in that world. Make some little click and clack.
It's a very satisfying noise.
It is.
Shouldn't call it a noise really, but it's satisfying. Everybody, this is FFIB. I'm Jason, and that is Tom. We're finger flicked with a Urban. This is the new Urban. It's coming to you live from GP Knives near St. Louis, Illinois. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Illinois. Yeah, same one. And they're going to be dropping this on the 17th. It is a slip joint knife, so no lock. It is RX45 steel, which is pretty fun. It's a fantastic steel. And a big change that we discovered today, Tom, it is G10 secure. It is secured with Torx, so it can be disassembled. And I believe that's the first time on an Urban.
I'm not positive because the other side has blank hardware on mine. And last time I checked, I don't think they want you taking apart the slip joints because I don't think they go back together so well.
It's a good tip. We were talking in a group chat about the fact that these are not easy to take apart. When I saw the Torx, I got excited, but you're saying not to take them apart.
Last Urban I had, I tried to take the blade out and patina it, and I learned just to leave it alone. Is my tip.
The wonderful thing about an Urban is that it does not have a lock. So if you live in an area that's highly regulated, where you're not allowed to carry a lockback knife, this is a great choice. It is certainly immune from gravity. You're not going to shake the blade out of it. It is a very stiff mechanism, so it's going to stay shut. So if you live in a place where they like to shake your knife to try to get the blade to fall out, it's not going to happen on this knife. This is going to be $97, I believe, $97.50.
Sounds about right.
Comes in this beautiful white handle with Rex 45 steel, and Rex 45 is a phenomenal steel. It's a fun steel. You get really good edge retention. You get pretty good toughness. Really a nice pocket knife steel. Something that you're not going to need to sharpen very much, especially on a knife like this.
I gotta say, I dig the profile. It's unmistakably a Spyderco for sure. But
no question. It's very comfortable in the hand.
The ergonomics are what you'd expect. It's like Magnamax level, Sage level. I have a smaller hand. Jason probably is not as good on it as me.
No, not at all. It's very good in the hand. It's way better than a Dragonfly, in my opinion. This is really nice in the hand. So really nice size, beautiful blade, extremely well done. I don't know about yours, Tom, but mine looks fantastic. It looks really well built.
And this color combo, everyone, shits themselves to get this thing.
Everybody loves the Stormtrooper.
Everyone loves Stormtrooper. If it had I guess that works with other with Nikes too, like called the Panda, like Panda Dunks. Like everyone has, as long as it has a cool name for the color combo.
Right.
If it was called the Skunk, I don't think it'd be as popular as the Stormtrooper.
True. Although skunks don't miss and Stormtroopers rarely hit their target.
That's true.
We all know that.
Yes.
Well, GP Knives certainly hit the target with this one. This is a very cool one. There have not been very many variants on the Urban. So if you like the idea of having, something a little different than the standard model, then this is a really nice choice. This is going to be dropping at 10 a.m. Central Time on the 17th of June. So you'll be able to get yours over at gpknives.com. So we'll be giving away this Urban. We'll do a giveaway. It's coming days. We'll put up a survey and get you guys a knife. So pretty cool. Comes with a couple stickers, and we'll get it to you as soon as we can. Just need to write the questions.
It is. I have to go look at the swag that came with mine, but it seems like knife stores in general, the swag level is just like, it's like an arms competition. Like everyone's like up in it. It's always better stickers, funnier stickers, more stuff.
Yep. Blake wants to know, how's the walk and talk? It's got a little click clack thing going.
Is that what the walk and talk is? Or is it not supposed to have any click and clack? Like, does that make it not classy?
I think you want it.
I like it. Sounds good.
Does sound good. I found the tolerances are really good on this one. It's centered. The blade looks excellent. The edge looks great. The DLC looks great. Really nice.
It's a Maniago made knife, but the blade and the finish look just like a Golden made knife.
I thought that too. I was wondering how they managed to get the DLC to look like it was done in Golden.
Yeah.
Spidey Art says, if you like the Lil Native, you'll like the Urban. Yes. It reminds me of a grippier Chaparral. I have a Chaparral and I like it, but this one is it's a little better in the hand. Are the scales fiberglass reinforced nylon or fiberglass reinforced CP? Copolymer. Asking for dyeing
one of this is, but one of the Golden models is different than the other one. I think it's the Magnamax. I don't know.
You're going to have to check the website, Brad. That's Spyderco.com. COM.
Oh, it's Brad asking a question. He can figure that out.
He'll have to look it up. I don't know the answer. Let me check the box. The box might have answers inside. So let me check. Make me do reading. How dare you, sir? It says FRN.
What up, Wade?
It is FRN, Mr. Caldwell.
For dyeing purposes. Ugh.
I thought he meant like mortality, but now that I think about it, he meant RIT dye.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I got sucked into the RIT dyeing world. It's kind of fun.
Some of you were promised Shawn Houston would be here. He is managing some kid things, and he's on his way. He'll be here in a few minutes. So just run a little behind. We didn't want to run behind for you guys. We would never do that to you.
I got a semi-new knife, though, and I'm excited to show Shawn it when it gets here.
You have a semi-new knife, and you're excited to show Shawn.
Well, the blade is new to me because I've been waiting. I don't know why it took you so long, but I got a triple B pair of 3 finally. But I already had these scales, but I have like a Magnamax second blade in it, and it just wasn't right. It just didn't dig it.
Scales like that should be on your best blades.
Yeah. Yep. Magnamax second just wasn't really feeling it.
And our friend Aramis is no longer working with that material, so it's all kind of used up.
Someone asked me about, I want to get a set of those. I'm like, if you can find a set, definitely buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't checked in with Aramis for quite a while, but he can't get Alutex anymore at all, any color.
It's not a matter of can't. The price doubled, and the supplier is unethical.
Oh. So
I know 2 people that have sent him money for materials and then been ghosted. So, yeah, it's risky.
Makes sense.
I think there's some competitors making knockoffs of it. I've handled some of it, and it doesn't look the same. It doesn't
really.
I don't need it to look identical, but I don't want it to look cheap. You know.
I was comparing it to this because I'm guessing these are different suppliers on some level or brand.
I don't believe so. I think it's the same stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
They're slightly different colors. Like this one's darker, but it might just because it's a thicker layer than this inlay is.
Different
definitely has this very weavy look, which I really dig. You can really see the weave in it.
Could be different batches. Patrick Bryan says I was on his website today and it let me select Alutex. Oh wow. Okay, if you can get it, great. Do it.
Yeah, I at one point owned like every color except for gold. You had gold.
It might be my favorite scale material.
It's so good, and it used to be one of the more affordable options. It was cheaper than some of the fat carbons.
Yeah, that was the crazy part. It's beautiful and it was cheaper than fat carbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have quite a few colors, but some of them are right-handed because when I ordered them, I was a dope and I didn't say. Oh, we have a special guest.
Hi, special guest.
Hi.
Hello, special guest.
She texted me. She got to go ahead before she snuck in here.
Oh, good.
Yes. We check in with our special guest.
Wasn't Sarah just a delight? Isn't it fun talking to the young kids about knives?
Yeah.
That was, if you guys missed it, we had Sarah from Knife Hub on last night, and we talked for 2.5 hours about knives and blade show and all kinds of fun. Cheeseburgers. It was a good conversation.
What? It was it went by quickly, but it was a long episode for sure.
It was a long one. Yeah, we haven't done that long in a while.
And when we figure out what was her something 98, and we're like, wait, she's like way younger than us, I think.
I think she's a little younger than us, yes. Wade says that that material is made out of Allotechians. Could be. Oh, damn. Here he is.
Oh, snap.
What's happening, buddy?
What's going on? Let me go get my headphones real quick, huh?
Sure. Grab your headphones.
Are we live?
We are.
We're all hanging out.
Yeah. We'll pull you out while you get your headphones, and we'll see you in a minute.
I couldn't tell if that was green screen. There was so much awesomeness going on behind him.
There was a lot of awesomeness in that room.
There was like tools. I want to see it.
Yep.
I got like a printer, and he's got like a grinder.
Patrick Bryan wants to know if anybody got a Tango. The Tango is legit. It's really, really good. It's not a big knife. It's hard to tell in the pictures, but it's a. Would you say it's para 3 sized?
It's a little, yes, native. Well, para 3 and native are the same length, but kind of, you know.
I think it's not quite a 3-inch blade. It's a little bit less, but it's a very slim knife. The pocket clip is really slim. It's got a fantastic feel in the hand. It's really nice. The grind is good.
Finishes. There's different options out there.
Chris is a friend of mine. I consider him a good friend, and I love his designs. I think he's an excellent designer. I know he's been working on that for probably 2 years with Jack Wolf, so it's been a long time coming. He's really nervous about the drop, and he's nervous about the reception of it. I feel like it did really well at the show. Like a lot of people were talking about it. I didn't hear anything bad about it from anybody, but I'm really happy that he's got a new cool knife out there. It just looks really good. Got himself a Thai Sunburst. That's a really good choice. They had a limited run one at the show that was really cool. It was what do they call it? Crystallized titanium, and then that was DLC coated, and it had a burst pattern on it. It was really cool. I did not get either of them, and I just couldn't decide what color I wanted. So the blue one's great. The one from the show was really great. So yeah, I'll pick one up at some point. It was a neat knife. S90V.
And I like it. I like that it's a little bit different than everything I've seen from Jack Wolf. Like they might be expanding what they offer out there.
Right.
Oh, speaking of Jack Wolf, did you head over to their booth and look at some of their budget folders?
Their budget folders were unbelievable. For $79, he's got some ridiculously good knives.
That was one of my favorite knives I handled at the show, was a slip joint knife. And honestly, he handed me like the S90V $300 version and the budget version. And if I was 95% of people, I would be like, well, why not this one?
I was being that guy at the booth. People would walk over and grab it, and I'd go, "That's $179, right?" And they go, "No, it's $79." I go, "No way."
Yeah, it's really nice for that much money.
It's like I was a plant or something, but it was just making me laugh my butt off because there's no way it was $79. It's too good. So, really, really cool. We approve, SK Ohio. 2 thumbs up. Extremely well done. And they have a feature that I like a lot that I don't see all the time. They had a bolster lock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
they
bolster
were,
lock. So it's like liner lock / frame lock ish with the scale over the top
you
of
could
it.
say it's a frame lock with a scale over top of it, making it a bolster lock because you don't get to it except at the very top of the knife. So I like it. Being a lefty, that's a really nice feature. Makes it harder to get your fingers on the lock bar while you're trying to open and close it.
Okay.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about the new Facebook. It's weird being a part of a platform that is hostile to content. They should want us there all the time, but they're hostile to content, and I don't know why. Instagram's the same way. They want you chemically dependent on their systems, but then they make it hard for you to post anything, and it makes me mad. It makes me crazy. I just hate it.
Spam thing is crazy. If I was stuck in the spam loop, if you're watching this and you because people have posted like I have been approved 27 times. My piece of advice was just delete that post and try again, and maybe it will get kicked out of the spam loop. If you are continuing the same post over and over and over again, we just keep on approving them, but sometimes they get kicked back in there, and we're all in there clearing them constantly all day. I don't know what's triggering it necessarily.
I went to my parents for 3 hours, and 8 times I cleared out 35 of them.
Yeah.
So it just keeps getting piled up. It's pretty stupid. Hopefully they'll fix it. I filed a complaint in the help desk section about it. I got really specific about what's going on. Somebody keeps telling me to turn off the admin assist. There's nothing on. There's nothing turned on for that, so it's still doing it.
We don't have the group AI. That's funny. The group AI thing that I see other groups allowing, and like the group AI asks the group questions, and they're really.
That thing's hard to turn off. They don't want us to turn it off. The MilliMate.
The MilliMate. Yep.
They let me name it, so I made it MilliMate, and then I kept going in there, turning it off. The other thing is like if I want to watch reels, I go to Instagram, and Instagram is owned by Facebook. It should be the same feel, and it's not. When you watch reels in Facebook, they give you pop-up ads on top of the reel. And it's very difficult to click the little tiny X. If you click it just wrong, it takes you to the ad.
Yeah.
So you're spamming yourself if you get watching reels on Facebook. So I do my best not to watch any reels there. It should be the same experience.
Well, the reels I find on Facebook and Instagram are wildly different.
It's a very different experience, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Our friend is back. Let's bring him in. Shawn.
Hello, sir.
What's going on?
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Love it.
Thanks for being here. I'm glad you could join us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What you got? 4 roses.
I got one of those.
You're a good dude.
At Christmas time, if you go to the distillery, they sell all 12 mashes, individual bottles, and you can choose. Or no, that's not true. They have all 12 versions of their mashes, and you can get a bottle of it. And typically, you can't do that. You have to get a blend, but they're all there, and it's limit 1. So I went with Casey. I think Casey Hedges and Kenyon Ventus, and we stood there for an hour and a half reading the bottles, going, "Which one do I want? Which one do I want?" We should have each bought a different one and then like split them up in the parking lot or something.
Nice. So we didn't really get a chance to hang out at Blade Show. We were all so busy doing our own things, huh?
It was I saw you in the hallway. I got a good hug, and I can't discount that. But yeah, we didn't get to hang out that much.
I looked for you many times, and you weren't in the booth every time I came by, and I don't know how I always intend to see all my friends, and I get to see about 5% of them. So it's hard to meet up with everybody. was
World's
your show?
biggest knife show. I mean, it was
Yeah.
good. I was very focused, actually. It was more like work, really. But
Yeah.
new steels coming out, so I was just kind of focused on that. I didn't really get a chance to check out the cool product that people had. So kind of wanted to jump in here and talk to you guys and listen to all the different cool stuff that you guys saw at the show, since I didn't really get a chance to look at everything.
I know from my point of view, in our little bubble in Facebook, I'm observing that the secondary market is down and the used values are down, and that's causing people to have hesitancy when it comes to buying new things. So I'm observing that things aren't selling as quickly as they did maybe 2 years ago, right? 3 years ago, mid-COVID, nothing was in stock anywhere and everything sold out instantly. And in this current climate, it made me wonder how many people are actually going to be there. So when we got to the show and it was really busy and Saturday was crazy, it made me happy to know that a perspective from a Facebook group doesn't mean that the whole world is like that, right? And then people still love knives and they're still coming. So to me, I don't know what the attendance numbers were, but it would surprise me if they weren't, normal or higher than normal. It just felt like there were a ton of people there and everybody was excited about knives. So I'm not
Saturday
really worried.
was pretty serious. Yeah, I would say Saturday was really serious. Like it was
Saturday was crazy.
Yeah, you couldn't even like really get through anybody to go where you were to go. And wait your turn, shoulder to shoulder, just kind of moving around. That was the busiest I think I've ever seen it. So it's like the old days,
No doubt. Yeah, I even getting to Eric, a few times I went over to talk to him, and he was a very busy man. Everybody wanted his attention. So I saw one knife maker showing off his knife to him, and Eric was doing his thing. He was giving him notes and talking about his design. And so I got out of the way and came back later, and there was a couple tourists, picking his brain about, VG10 versus Maximum. What's the difference? So I walked away. But,
yeah, they were pretty busy over there. It was cool seeing people get that Sal and Eric magic for the first time for a lot of them, so I felt like I didn't want to hawk it up. So I'd come over there and say hi, but just speak strictly about a few things I needed to talk to them about. And then just kind of, you got to share them.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that
hi
too.
From Eric, and I was like, okay, he saw me. He knows I'm here. I'm happy with that. I'll take it. I don't need to get up there. There's just a lot of people. They're celebrities. They're legitimate celebrities. And that's a funny thing about this knife show is you see these people that are like your heroes, and they're just there, but they're a lot of people's heroes, and a lot of people want their time.
You always remember your first time too, meeting some of these people. So I think that's the kind of magic. So when I see that and I feel like I'm like cutting into their time with their first magical time meeting the Spyderco creator, it's like, okay, step back, let you guys have your magic, because it's a pretty cool experience. I remember my first time, I was like, it's pretty smitten by it.
I don't think there was a lot of drama. It feels like everybody behaved themselves for the most part. If something happened, I don't know about it. Everybody was responsible in the pit. There weren't any reports of thieves, other than we did run into a big Facebook scammer. There's a guy lives in Atlanta, Georgia, that's a scammer. And I saw
your post about that. It made me chuckle.
Dude, I actually walked into him at the Phoenix flashlight booth, and Rich Cox was like, I think that's him. And I just walked right up to him and I said, hi, I'm Jason. I just stuck my hand out and shook his hand. And I said, you see, you got a Spyderco bag. You like Spyderco? He goes, yeah. I started talking to him. Oh, me too. I love Spyderco. And then I went, are you on Facebook? He goes, no. And I said, well, that's weird, because you look like a guy I know on Facebook. And he was like, oh, it's not me. It's not me, my friend. And I said, all right, well, have a good show. See you later. And I kind of walked away. And after that, I realized like that was really him. Like that was him. I was mad that I didn't hound him out of the building, but I don't have any evidence.
For those of us that don't know what he did, I mean, what was it that he did that was so heinous?
He would list a knife for sale, and he would say, I've got this, Kunwu Gringo, and it's $180, and you pay him your $180, and then a week later in the mail you get a rusty screwdriver and an old sock. And then you reach out to him and go, hey, man, I ordered a knife from you. You shipped me a knife, but what I got was a screwdriver. And he'd go, I don't know, man. Somebody must have tampered with your package. And
Right.
meanwhile, he would sell it 3 or 4 times. And then once the admins found out about it, he would skate from the group so we couldn't ban him. And then 5 months later, he would join again and come back in the group and do it again and do it again. And he was doing it across multiple groups. So there's probably a dozen people out there that he ripped off. And
so he
got away
deserved
with it.
more than just being acknowledged. He probably deserved to be confronted then, though.
He deserves to be arrested and tried for mail fraud in a federal court. That's what should happen to him. But I'm not the cops, and I'm not a sheriff, and I'm not a federal agent, and I don't have evidence. So in the moment when I'm standing in front of him at Blade Show, I'm the one that's going to get thrown out for hassling a guy. So so far,
at least you put his picture up there. But just that sucks that he's at the show getting more ammunition to go scam more people. So
honestly, it was refreshing to see a real scammer in person and not just a virtual one from Nigeria. That was the weird part. The ones we're getting nowadays aren't real. They're just scammers that are grafting money. They're not pretending to ship you a fake knife.
Well, at least that shows there's a lot of money still in our industry, huh? If people will realize it's an easy way to make a quick buck, even though they don't know nothing about knives.
Yep. So I think I saw some innovative products. I saw some cool stuff. I was happy to see new companies. I was also, I don't know, it warmed my heart a little bit to walk through the little tables and you see the old granddad and his wife with the polished Bowie blades. The guy pours his heart into each one of them, and he's had a table for 30 years. They're still coming. So it did. In the beginning of the year, I felt like there was a lot of change coming in the industry, and now in June, I don't know that that's the case. What about you, Tom? Did you go with any preconceived notions about any of that?
I knew it was going to be popular this year. The naysaying and the vibe killing that goes on in groups with if the secondary is good, I don't want to be part of this hobby anymore because I can't flip. Whatever the reasoning is, like that vibe always bothers me, and I always try to look past it and say, like, that's not really what's going on. That's just, like you said, it's just our little group, and it's just people that complain loudly that they can't sell their stuff. Okay, but they're still, why? Part of the reason is our industry is catching up with demand. It's still a growing, busy industry, but like there's new, cooler stuff. There's always something cool. Like I don't feel like Koenig didn't have a problem selling their new cool stuff, even if their secondary market might be softer than it once was. It's just new innovations and new cool stuff. I'm still really excited about things that are coming out. And as long as I can still be excited about new stuff, and this hobby is going to keep on going. Like
a lot more stuff than there was 10 years ago. I think 10 years ago, like your option was Benchmade just put a new anodizing on the 940. Oh my God, that's crazy. Like I'll pay $50 more for that. Now it's just everything's like exploded so much. There's so much variety and camo carbon fiber and all this crazy colors and new locks that you could hardly keep up with versus there was probably like 20 different locks 10 years ago. Now it's just like, look, We Knives came out with a new lock. I don't even know what that's called.
Yeah. And you go over to Winterblade and the guy's got 8 new prototypes that run on magnets, with locks you've never seen before. There's some cool innovation going on. It's exciting.
Where do you think it's all going as far as you guys are able to kind of see all that stuff and maybe connect the dots, but what's the hot direction from Blade 2025 that you guys saw everything going?
I think
direction. I think small knives are still in. I think big knives are still kind of out. I don't see that changing anytime soon, but a knife like the Bodacious, they could put out a Bodacious in 15V and it would take over the world, and all of a sudden it's the hot new knife like the Shaman used to be. In the Spyderco world anyway. But it does feel like everybody wants a blade under 3 inches that's still really hot. Autos are becoming more and more popular. Companies like ProTech, ProTech continues to make more and more autos. Microtech's still very popular. So I find that interesting. That's not something that I love in a knife. I don't seek out automatics, but they're doing well.
Collabs
are
yeah,
that's
now.
true.
Designers and different brands. A lot of cool stuff with Vero. He had a bunch of collabs. He had really cool fixed blade with interchangeable blades, and you can go and you can buy a hand ground blade from makers that are above my head, collectors by like Jared Oser and Tom Crine. There's a couple, there's maybe like 2 others, but you could go buy just the blade and you could switch it with the handles. And so like he has, 4 different options at different price points and same knife, but different cool grind. So he had a lot of cool collabs, and he did one with ProTech. Vero did. Yeah, to see people like connecting with each other in the community, like trying to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Tom, you hit on something there that is really, I'm seeing a lot of it. It's, I've heard lots of stories about the 80s and 90s in knife making where a lot of these knife companies were really at each other's throats. They did not like each other. They hated each other's guts. It was like NBA basketball. They were out to kill each other. And nowadays I'm seeing more collaboration across the companies. And I think about a company like Tactile. They're well known now for OEMing parts. You can order screws from them. I know 2 makers that went there to learn how to use a Swiss lathe because they wanted to buy one, but it's a $300,000 piece of gear. And if you're going to have it, you need to know how to use it, and you better make money with it. So like they'll, for 2 friends of mine, they let them come to the shop and learn how to use it. That's very gracious.
Wow.
Tim Reeve at Chris Reeve Knives, same way. He has an open door policy for American knife makers. If you are making knives in America and you want to know more about what they do there, he will share all of the secrets with you, because he believes that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and that more American knife makers means a more robust, domestic community of knife makers. So he's another guy that's like out there sharing. He shouldn't be sharing his secrets. He should be slapping people, when they come close to the building, but he's letting them in and showing them stuff. And I love this part. I think the collaborative part of the knife making world is really exciting.
You think that's maybe those smaller U.S. makers, though, right? Like I think Benchmade and companies like that, they're probably still a little more recluse when it comes to stuff like that.
I think of the small and medium guys as being more collaborative, but I mean, look at what Spyderco is doing with you, for example. The way they collab with makers, they've always done that part. Yeah, I just think with the cross-pollination of ideas is easier now than it was 10 years ago. And I don't see that changing. I think that would get better, not worse.
Very cool. Yeah. It's almost like the rise of those overseas production and stuff like that. It's maybe helping these U.S. makers that you've shared kind of band together a little bit more.
I think all of them, like Tom and I I'm not going to name the name, but Tom and I had a conversation with a very well-known knife maker. He's an award-winning knife maker. And he was lamenting about how hard it is to do a mid-tech in America. It's just, he's like, I can't get engagement. We'll have a nice conversation and I send him a file and then I don't hear anything. And it pisses me off because I know if I have to chase him at the beginning, I'll have to chase him at the end. That was what he said. And, I want to be able to do more stuff in the United States, but it's just hard. And I think all of these makers will admit that, like they don't want to have to trust their production to a faraway place that they can't visit all the time. And there's a language barrier and they can't validate things are right. They would prefer to do it and keep it here. But if everybody agrees to that and everybody collaborates and cooperates, then that could happen. But if everybody picks at each other, it probably will never happen. So I think that's certainly good for everybody.
It was like I did see some people trying to make a go out of American. Like Lynch was there they have a new fixed blade now that's made in America. Rec is finally rolling out their knives that they've been making in America now. Hellbender, so that's a new option on the market now. So there's still a desire for that.
What did you guys think of those? Did you get a chance to go over there and check those blades out?
I held Carl Alley's Hellbender, and it was really nice. It's a cool little fixed blade. The Lynch ones are really nice as well. Just cool to see something made in America by a big name, by someone that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, for the industry being so down and so slow, I mean, you've got these guys that were doing other things in the industry now, jumping in almost both feet to get these knives made. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, between it being pretty packed at Blade Show and then these guys putting their foot forward to make some blades, I think things are going pretty good. So
I think the consumer demand for innovation with blade steel is self-evident. You know, MagnaCut came along, and despite everybody deliberately trying to misconstrue what it actually is, it still managed to be a huge success, and it's turned into a really great steel, and it's changed a lot of opinions about how to make knives and what you should use to make knives. And, you know, the fact that you can have it all with a Goldilocks steel is really exciting. And
it's just that too, because like you had people, it's like the Bigfoot UFO people who always just try to like make something so dramatic that, oh, the MagnaCut's not that good. It's all hype. You know,
dramatic's the right word for it.
Non-conformist type people. And it's like the MagnaCut is what it is, regardless of how your emotions or feelings are about it. It's still going to be incredibly stainless. It's still going to be very tough. You know, you've got 8% carbide volume. It's all the super hard carbides. It puts it right at that mid-tier area like S35VN and S30V range. And it does everything it was advertised and promised. It has a good range of hardness for people to work with. But the biggest variable that I learned from the launch of that steel back in 2021 was the consumer. Just these people that are just made up experts just making up whatever they feel about it. And it's like, that's cool, but it still tests in this range, whether your emotions are this or that. I don't know. I don't know how to make an emotional steel.
I don't know why you in particular have that big dumb target on you, but people love to come at you with stuff they think they heard on the internet, and they don't even repeat what they think they heard right. They get it wrong and they argue. And it drives me crazy. They'll say stuff like, well, I've read, or I heard from a guy, and they'll repeat something that they think they heard. And that stuff becomes true. And the funny thing is Laren has never claimed things about the steel that it doesn't do. He's always been very transparent. It's basically stainless 4V is what he said 9 million times. And then you'll see a clickbait YouTube video where it's like, does this have the best edge retention ever? No, no one ever said it would.
No, everything, all the facts came out as soon as it was launched, you know, and
right.
That really was a brilliant innovation. We never had the stainless 4V before. It used to be back in the day that you just had to select 4V because that was like the nexus of strength, toughness, and wear. All of those things combined, you couldn't get anything else that would have this type of peak of all those things without having some sort of trade-off. So then he comes along, and through his innovation and brilliance, he finds out that, you know, he can have just under 11% chromium inside that material and still have it be more stainless than materials that have 20% chromium. And of course, it has to do with, you know, how much chromium you have in solution with the steel when it's heat treated, but not everybody thinks about it like that. And so when they first looked at that material, they're like, is that even going to work? That doesn't have enough chromium in it, because, you know, everybody regurgitates the same thing about it needing plus 12% or needs to have 13%, yada, yada. But when you have somebody that's just very innovative in their thinking and they can step outside the box with stuff and just change everything, that's pretty cool. So we're pretty fortunate that we have somebody like that. Like every few generations, you get a guy like that just kind of shakes stuff up. So it's pretty sweet stuff.
You know, I went by Niagara's booth. Mm-hmm. And I saw a framed portrait of a scan of some steel laying on the table, on the desk there. And I didn't think much of it, but I looked at it and I went, that looks like one of Shawn's pictures. And somebody framed it. And then later on, I saw a picture of Sal and Gail holding a framed photo, and it was the same frame. And I went, I know where that is. So that was yours, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was my color metallography. I dropped it off for them as a gift. They thought it was really cool. Bob Skibitsky was there. He was the old metallurgist for Crucible. He now works for Aerosteel, and he's helping them kind of translate stuff over to Aerosteel from all the Crucible stuff that he did for the past 20 years. But yeah, he was very impressed by it. He thought it was really cool to see when you have it in color like that, usually they're kind of in black and white. But when you can color it like that, I mean, it's really cool to be able to see all the different features. I think a lot of the guys that don't know as much about that stuff, to them, it just looks like this collage of mess. They don't know what the hell they're looking at. But when you can see those carbide sizes and you could see the matrix and the grain boundaries, it really puts in perspective what this material is. So with the Magnamax, you could see right away that you don't have any of those chromium carbides in there, despite having more of the carbon and carbide formers. That's very difficult to achieve, and Laren was able to achieve that. And then you also see it has twice the carbide volume as the MagnaCut, which is also very impressive. And so I just thought it was cool. The people that are in the know, when they see that, they're like, dude, that's impressive. You know, the people that don't know, they're just like mumbo jumbo. But that's why I like to go to the show, is I get to talk to more of my people, the industry people, about stuff.
Right.
So
right.
they like the metallography. That's kind of a very niche, very technical. So you don't really get to see stuff like that.
On the note of where I see this place going, your post kind of like was very reassuring to me. The group, I always watch how the engagement is, just make sure the group's always going the right direction, that we're not losing momentum and the hobby's not going to die or whatever. Your post with giving Sal that picture, it blew up, and I love seeing something like that happen in the group. It just makes me excited when people get on board and join in and put posts up and share exciting things and happening, and to see how awesome that post did and how excited people were to see you giving Sal a gift, made me really happy. Like, it was cool to watch just everybody that was at Blade Show posting, and then people that weren't there get excited for them and not poo-poo it and not shit on their time. Like, everyone had a great time this year, and I still felt like there's a lot of hype behind it, and the numbers confirmed it for me. It just made like,
imagine doing something so long that there's people that don't even know that you're the creator of it. You know what I mean? I feel like for Sal, I posted that on my Instagram, and I had somebody say something like, "Who's this guy?" You know? And like, it's always fun, you know. You try not to be a snob, because it's like, okay, I get it, you know.
Is
you
that
guys,
the baseball
you guys
guy?
just see
No.
yeah, you just see like the Spyderco logo. You don't always connect the dots that there's somebody that made that, and it actually goes back to the, you know, several decades ago. 49 years actually this year.
that's crazy.
Next year, Spyderco will have existed for 50 years. Okay. And yeah, it's Sal Klesser and his wife Gail that made Spyderco, living out of a bread van, selling little products and trinkets and stuff, and going to shows and selling the Spyderco Sharpmaker and presenting the Sharpmaker, and eventually getting into knives from there. But yeah, I told the guy in the comments, I'm like, it's a knife guy. Because that's
He's kind of a big deal.
After all these years, he's still just a knife guy. You know,
hey, you like these? You like pocket clips?
yeah.
You should meet this guy.
Yeah, I think I learned. I mean, Sal was just always so full of tons of wisdom. He always told me that the man who beats his chest falls backwards. So it's never. You almost have to stick up for Spyderco in a way, because you will never hear Sal, you know, on the top of the mountain bragging about all his achievements about, I invented one-hand opening, I invented the pocket clip, we use all these different steels. You know, he never felt like it was necessary to brag. The products, they should just speak for themselves. So, but yeah, I just told him it's a knife guy. Somebody else jumped him in the comments, though. I felt bad, you know, and then he tried to like defend himself. I'm like, you're just gonna have to take the loss on that. Like, if you're a respectable knife guy, you should probably know who Sal Klesser is.
Do you like pocket clips? Oh, you do. Okay. Well, that's it. Do you like one hand open? Yeah, that's good.
You like all these different exotic steels? Do you like?
Right.
You know, it turns out they were like one of the first production companies to use like ATS 34 back in the 90s, when that was a big deal. So, like, they just were always leading the way, leading the charge on all these different steels. So I figured, with this new revolutionary steel coming out that Laren made called Magnamax, it's like they should have a portrait of that material, because, you know, they're going to be the ones that get it out there to people the most.
Yes.
This fall.
Yes.
You know, there should be a meal team knife that they're coming out with in the Magnamax. That was basically the last melt they made at Crucible before they shut down. That was slightly modified from the first one. So it should be a lot closer to what Laren was trying to achieve with Magnamax. So it should be pretty exciting for people to get their hands on and try it out.
Shall we move into Magnamax for a minute?
Yeah, whatever you guys would like.
Yeah, do that.
So everybody watching this now is familiar with MagnaCut. MagnaCut, okay. The intention of MagnaCut was to make an extremely stainless steel that retained the toughness properties of a tool steel without surrendering that stainlessness property. Typically, you can't have both. And also not losing edge retention to the point of being like a steel like AEBL, which is wonderfully slicey, but not particularly good edge retention. It's very stainless, right? So how do we manage to maximize all three of those? And MagnaCut did that. And now following on the heels of MagnaCut, we now have the second steel from Laren called Magnamax. And can you tell us a little bit about what we can expect from that?
Well, I was reading some of the comments and stuff from just the regular lay people, and their impression of hearing about the new Laren steel was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to sell all my old knives in MagnaCut and replace them with the Magnamax. And that's not the intention with Magnamax. It's not intended to replace MagnaCut, but you have the properties of MagnaCut over here with edge retention. And with the Magnamax, you're trying to increase that, but then you reduce the toughness. So it's giving you something more, but then it's trading away. Versus MagnaCut was intended to be kind of like all of these things at the highest level together, because it's always a trade-off. Whenever you add more of something, you're taking away from something somewhere else. So with MagnaCut, it's trying to balance out. So people that were complaining about, well, I wanted more edge retention with MagnaCut, this stuff sucks. Well, it's trying to do a lot of different things. And
right.
To try to make it do that better, you basically have these trade-offs. So what if we take the kind of innovation and idea of that MagnaCut, and then you apply it to something that has more edge retention for some decreased toughness and perhaps a little bit of a decrease in the corrosion resistance, but it's still going to be a lot more corrosion resistant than a lot of other materials in that category. So there you have it, the birth of Magnamax, giving you basically, if MagnaCut is stainless 4V, then Magnamax is stainless 10V or K390, basically in that range. I think there were some people, they were arguing that it's like, no, it's stainless K390. No, it's stainless 10V. And it's like, it's in that group. Okay. Like,
right.
You don't need to pull hairs, So like you have MagnaCut, which is like S35VN, LMAX, VanX, like S30V range. That's a group of steel. You have a hard time kind of pulling hairs between the differences between those. And then you have this other category that has more edge retention than that, but less toughness, that is in that category with the 10V, K390, Venatus 8, Venatus 10, stuff like that. So it should be, for some people with the smaller pocket knives, they prize edge retention a little bit more than things like toughness. So for that group of people, I think they're going to be excited. And I think for bigger manufacturers, are obviously going to run into the fact that it's going to chew up more abrasive and things like that. But they should be able to market it for their like premium lines. So places that are using stuff like S90V or 20CV, this will be kind of comparable to that, except it'll be tougher than those and more stainless. So it should be pretty exciting.
So to make an analogy, maybe to help everybody understand, with MagnaCut, you're talking about maybe an SUV like a Chevy Tahoe,
Sure.
Where you have space and you have comfort and you have power and you have the ability to cruise down the highway, but you can also haul a trailer. But then you go over to a sports car, which is less space, goes a lot faster. It's probably not going to tow anything, but if you want to have a lot of fun and you want to get where you're going quickly, the sports car is going to be more fun on the highway. So it's a trade-off, like you said. Whereas with MagnaCut, you're getting a lot of everything. In the case of Magnamax, we're going to trade off a little bit of the toughness for edge retention.
Yeah, yeah, and you notice that too, that some people were complaining that like, man, the MagnaCut, it doesn't hold an edge, bruh. I don't know. It needs to be 65 for it to like be anything, and it's like, well, not necessarily. It's a balanced steel. So for those folks, maybe the ultimate steel for them will be the Magnamax. Now I've taken the Magnamax, I've used it. I put the first edge ever on Magnamax when I made those Catra specimens for the testing. That was back in 2024. And then, I think that was 2023 when I did that. But for 2024, I was able to take it hunting with me, and it's phenomenal. We broke down a big old elk, a bull elk, and it was still shaving sharp at the end. So the edge retention will be good. I think people will enjoy that, especially if you're already liking stuff like K390, 10V. You're getting that, but you're getting it stainless. So,
Shawn, I really enjoy watching Cedric and Ada's content on YouTube. Pete down in Australia. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the fact that he's been doing the same edge test with minimal changes in variables for, 10 years. And he's done 400 knives. And when he did MagnaCut, I remember he got a tremendously high cut test number cutting with MagnaCut on his twisted sisal rope. Mm-hmm. And yesterday he dropped a video where he did Magnamax. And he was speculating that he believes that the high toughness in the steel sort of made it good at edge retention, given that he was cutting through the rope into a wooden cutting board, and that the circumstances of the cutting drove that number up. And I remember back when MagnaCut came out, he got that crazy high number. And I remember thinking, like, this is out of line with what Laren said the steel we could expect from the steel. Like 4V is good, but it doesn't have magical edge retention. It's just good. And he was getting absurd numbers out of MagnaCut. Do you have an opinion about any of that? Do you think that there's any?
I like Pete. He's entertaining. He makes good content and stuff. I think one of the best things about Pete is, like, it makes it easy for somebody who just has like a passing interest in some of this stuff to like process what he's doing.
Yes. Versus cutting rope in the real world feels like a realistic test.
It just feels like something you can contextualize better. Like versus when we do that Catra test, it's like I don't even know what that is. Like, people like they just like
I don't have one of those.
What that is. So it's pissing me off. That's right. Kind of the message I get from some of these people. Meanwhile, what they don't understand is that the Catra is extremely useful for like comparing large sets of variables or different conditions or steels and stuff. It gets you down to the brass tacks as quick as possible for comparing things. Now, as far as your question about why is that he did the MagnaCut and it did this, and then the Magnamax this, and is it because of the radio wave propagation, or like the thing is like, did we do an average of those cuts? Like, what happens if you did like an average of those? Like, because when we do the Catra, we actually do an average of those cut tests, and that's the advantage of Catra is the test. It's being ran by a robot, and so it's very repeatable, and it makes it quick for you to do that test over and over again. Probably the problem with Pete's test is it's so laborious and so much effort is put into a single test data point. It's difficult for you to get like an average of 3 to see what's going on, right? And then I guess you'd have to have 3 different knives with 3 different factory edges, and then see what's going on from there, and then see like, oh, okay, like it looks like actually it did average out to this. That other thing, we just had this outlier that tested really high, and so maybe we throw that out, or we keep that in there, it's difficult to try to make conclusions with not enough data to get averages from, because you don't know what the scatter is from the information that you're gathering. But the problem is when your test is that extreme, it's going to be kind of difficult to motivate yourself to get more and more data points. But for instance, when I run a hardness test, I don't just run one single hardness test. I take an average of either 3 or 5, and then I add them up and average them. And then that's the representation of the hardness of that blade or specimen or condition. I don't just take one hardness test, and what if it's just some sort of scatter? Maybe they're debris or something, or something was off and it threw that point up or dropped it really low. And then I'm basing everything off of this like conundrum that I'm in, where I have this inaccurate data point that I gather that I didn't average out, and now I'm chasing these gremlins about why something's not working the way it should work. When if I just averaged it, I'd be like, oh man, that was just off. There was nothing there to chase. So I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of rambled on there, but you just need more data.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to formulate a question in my head, and I'm struggling with how to get it out. But no, I think you hit on a lot of it. Like, we've all been wondering in the group about the Magnamax, and I'm certainly excited about it. Laren's post that he did on Knife Steel Nerds was pretty clear. You can expect K390 edge retention, and it's going to be stainless. That sounds amazing, because
I mean, that's a fact. That's absolutely a fact that it will have that range. I think as far as like, if you need dude, we need the cardboard test. We need the rope cut. Sure. But are you ruling out the sharpening? Are you ruling out the heat treat? Are you ruling out the geometry for that stuff?
Right.
The material is what it is. And we could look at the structure microscopically and see it has twice the carbide volume of the MagnaCut. And then in controlled testing, where we're just like isolating as much as possible and comparing it to a huge data set of other materials where they all seem to line up with their carbide volumes and carbide types, it fits right where it should be, up there with K390. So the question you would have to ask for why it wouldn't test, or if it tests higher or if it tests lower, is more of like, well, how did you sharpen it? And how did you grind it? And how did you heat treat it? So those are the big variable questions for that. But the material itself, it kind of is what it is.
Well, so far we have a cliffhanger situation with Pete. He gave us one video where he used the factory edge, and he will now sharpen it to a mirror edge using the same KME sharpener he's done on all his other knives. And then we'll get to see what happens with a new edge. So I'm waiting with bated breath. We need Pete to take an aspirin. We need him to do some curls.
It's a great service for the community. I think what he does, I think it's great to, like, instead of all the mumbo jumbo like science stuff, you just like show something that your average person can contextualize and see, and then just get a rough idea of like how that compares to this. But as far as being able to like draw conclusions from that of like, well, I think that maybe the carbide sizes are the reason why it's not performing, like maybe it's not enough data for you to make those conclusions. But it is very entertaining. I like it.
You're right. And you mentioned something earlier, and that just triggered my memory. Pete has a graph with all the knives he's ever tested. So all 400 data points are on a graph. And what's fun is if you look at a steel like M4, he's tested like 15 knives with M4 steel, and he's got all the data points stacked up in the M4 column. And it's wild. Like sometimes it'll cut 200 pieces of rope, and sometimes it'll cut 900. So to your point, the heat treat, who made it? Was it real M4? Like, how often does that happen?
I mean, just the sharpening alone. So like Pete really took us on a complete journey through his entire like knife journey. He got better as he went on, but he still had testing from back when he started, when he was using just all these different sharpening devices. And, he got better at sharpening. He got better at getting rid of the burr and things like that and making a better kind of final edge. He also just got better at rope cut testing and figuring out when he would stop the rope cut test, right? So, but then you just have all that data still in there. And so that really causes a big spread. So you would look at that and be like, M4 is pretty crazy, like M4's got a lot of spread, but let's throw out the skill of the sharpening and this and that. And we start throwing all that stuff out. We see that those are some of the variables that are making the spread that big. If we start removing those, it starts getting tighter. And we aren't able to make that conclusion that it's M4 that's doing that. It's the human element that's interacting with it and causing this, versus it would be more like this. So it makes it difficult to make claims about steel, but also it's entertaining, and you get to see what the knives can do. And if you put in the context of he sharpened it with this device at this angle, it's from this company, so whatever heat treat they're doing and whatever, it's a thicker knife, so maybe that's a factor into why it's doing better or worse. And so I think you really, if you think critically about it, you're able to kind of see what the knives are doing, but you're not really isolating steel so much. But that's fine, because we don't buy bars of steel and do lab testing with it. We're buying knives,
Right.
So
at the end of the day, we care at a knife level. We don't care at a metallurgy level.
Exactly. Yeah. Versus like, someone like myself, I'm working in the background with these things, helping, get these products working and things like that. And so, yeah, I want to know that stuff because it's important for like seeing if the material works. And then for the consumer, I think what Pete does is good because he's showing what the knives are doing. So it's more of a knife test than a steel test. But that's fine because we're buying knives.
Can we shift back to 15V real quick?
Yeah, whatever you guys would like to talk about. I'm gonna keep drinking though.
That's fine. I wanted to answer a question that we had pop up 20 minutes ago. Tony Tool Time is
Hey, Tony Tool Time.
He's asking about the 15V heat treat that we're seeing in the Spyderco knives, I'm assuming, and how it's. I know the story goes is that there were multiple batches, right? And you were instrumental in picking the batch that was available. Isn't that true?
I mean, this goes all the way back to like Magnamax seemed like it was going to go away. And I was in the Spyderco forum and I was saying, Sal, what about this 15V stuff? Yeah. And I had gotten some and I just heat treated it just like off the data sheet. And I was like, well, you know, that's interesting. It gets a pretty, you know, spicy edge and stuff like that. But it seemed like the edge was basically kind of falling apart. And so it's like this industry heat treat is designed for much larger geometries and just taking advantage of the higher hardness and large carbide volumes and the hardness of those carbides for industrial purposes. But when we're talking about knives, we're not talking about industrial cut forces or industrial geometries. So how do we take advantage of that large surplus of super hard carbides, but then put it in a much thinner cross-section with an even thinner cross-section of the edge? And so when we heat treat that stuff, we have to heat treat and think about matrix, which is supporting the carbides, which is the majority of what's actually holding that structure, because the carbides are only 23% of that entire microstructure. The rest is all matrix. And for a lot of people's heat treats, they're not thinking about that stuff. And it's the matrix that supports those very hard, brittle carbides that's extremely important. And so I took the material and did a bunch of trials and found something that looked extremely promising. I mean, I had it basically running 67 Rockwell and I was chopping 16 penny nails with it. You know, I even got kicked out of a knife making group for making claims that were like made up. They told me that it can't get that hard and I can't pound nails with it. So they booted me out. I mean, I actually went and I got third-party hardness testing at Leeson Metallurgical, which is a metallurgical lab, and they had a digital hardness tester, and they tested it, and it showed 67 Rockwell. And, you know, that shut him up, the guy, but I was still just gone. You know, I don't want to go back either. It was just too much ignorance to argue with.
Good grief.
But, you know, I brought that over to Sal, because Sal said, hey, you want to do a collaboration folder with us? And I said, sure, but could I ask a favor? And he's like, yeah, anything. And I said, can I get this steel that I worked on that looks like it, you know, from all this testing and work that I've done, it looks like it's going to be pretty incredible. And he said, yeah, absolutely. Just go ahead and talk with Eric. And so there was a lot of back and forth actually with getting that translated over to a production level. I guess it's like anything where anything you're just doing in your shop, it doesn't always translate over to a much different shop, let alone just at high volume. So really it was like going back to the drawing board and getting everything kind of smoothed out and worked out. A lot of sending samples back and forth. I mean, even just making sure our hardness testers were in agreement by, you know, calibrating and seeing like, okay, your tester's reading this piece, my tester's reading, okay, our testers are in agreement before we can move forward. So the heat treat was doing something so specific, we needed actually a specific batch of 15V for it to work, where we needed just the right chemistry for us, since we're focusing so much on matrix and we want that to line up with our heat treatment from batch to batch. So we had to select what we were looking for from looking at all the different 15V chemistries to get what we wanted. Yeah. So that's not something they normally do. That's an extreme pain in the ass. And so all of these things I was asking for it's pretty annoying to ask a production company to do stuff like that. You're kind of being a pain in the ass. And, you know, as far as they're concerned, until they get testing and feedback from the market with the product, you know, as far as they're concerned, you're probably just being a prima donna, you know, so they think maybe you're just being a pain in the ass for the sake of it. But so when it was coming out, you know, I was told by Eric, hey, we're just going to run this Manix 215V. That's it, dude. Like, this is just a lot. Like, you know, and he didn't say specifically exactly what it was, but, you know, I can only imagine you're asking a company to work with this steel at extremely high hardness with lots of carbides. It's going to take lots of grinding, lots of abrasives that you're running through. You're asking for all of these little special treatments for it. And it's just like, dude, this is a lot, you know? So then they came out with it, and it's because of you guys. You guys supported it. You guys went out and you purchased it. you guys said, hey, we like this. Like, this is not just hype. This is something we've wanted for a long time. And it sold out and people loved it. And so from there, it was like, we will do more, Shawn. And it's like, cool. You know, I was happy either way, because what maybe you guys don't understand as just regular knife guys, you guys are just like, yeah, 15V, yeah, this and that. It's all trading cards for a lot of people. They think of it as just like trading cards. That's an extreme material. No, I mean, I'm serious. That's an
no, it's a great analogy, Shawn. It's a great analogy.
If you came to a company and you said, hey, I want 15V, they'd laugh you out of the store. They'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Because you're asking them for a ton of work. You're putting a ton of work, a ton of liability. Just, it's a lot to ask for anybody. So people, they like to talk shit about Spyderco and say, well, I like this company. Spyderco is the only company on earth that would be able to do the 15V, because it's just too much. What people don't realize is that they train themselves to do what they do. The work that they did with the Magnamax was incredible. Like, no production company on earth was able to pull off what they did with the Magnamax. And the story with Magnamax is it goes back to zero tolerance, where they did a sprint run. They didn't know what Magnamax was, and they were going to run a sprint run in it. And halfway through their run, they stopped with the Magnamax. Like, it was that rough for them. I won't get into details with it, but it was that rough for them. So then Spyderco, they kind of pick up the ball, and it's just been this ongoing thing. And they basically learned through that, with their machines and their processes and all that stuff, to become basically the best in the world when it comes to working with extremely exotic materials and being able to produce them in high volumes. So even just here in my shop, I mean, it's very laborious to grind these materials. I mean, I can get probably 4 blades per belt when it comes to just your regular carbon steel. It's these 2x72 belts that I have behind me, versus something like Magnamax would be like anywhere from 6 to 10 belts, depending on the size of the knife. So that's an extreme cost that you're talking about. So making a custom knife with that material is just, most custom makers will try it and be like, I'm never doing that again, because it costs them too much money. People don't realize too that for the cost of a lot of knives, you like to keep the cost of a knife maybe under $50 and maybe under $100. But when your belt cost is that just to grind it, it's not going to be lucrative for you to make knives in it, and it's going to be extremely difficult. So
let's repeat that for a second. If we use a carbon steel, you could do 4.
You could probably get about 3. You probably get about 3 or 4 blades, especially with some of the harnesses that these cowboys run that stuff at. You know, like a lot of them be running stuff like 57 Rockwell or 60 Rockwell tops. But it's like, this stuff grinds like butter with these ceramic belts. But then when you start getting into stuff like 15V or Magnamax, it laughs at those belts. That initial sharpness of the belt is about all that's going to work to tickle it. And then once you lose that sharp grain on the belt, you get these kind of flat mountain tops, because when they collide with carbides, it just shatters the points on that abrasive. And once it gets to there, that belt could still maybe work for some plain carbon steel, but for your Magnamax or 15V, it's done. And so you'll just get a glazed finish. A lot of guys maybe don't know that, and they're just creating a lot of burnishing and kind of friction rubbing. And then they're actually burning out or causing a lot of fatigue in the blade near the edge. So then they compound this huge problem where they're trying to get this belt to work. It's taking forever. They're generating lots of heat and fatigue in the blade. And then when they go sharpen it, it's just like that blade is trash now too. So it's a big lose-lose. Your abrasive cost is through the roof. You're not able to get a nice, clean, crisp finish because of the composite nature of the material with the super hard carbides. It's not allowing you to cut it nice and flush and even. So you get this scuffy, ugly looking finish, and you're getting lower edge performance, which is what you were trying to do in the first place to market it. So it's the trifecta of pain. And so basically I'm pointing out to you guys like why that is an extraordinary thing to ask a company to do. Say, hey, can you work with the 15V? And for the layperson, they don't know any of that stuff I just shared with you, for them to understand that, like, you're asking me to do what? Like, for them, it's just the name and the number, and this person said it was cool. This person said it was too brittle. Like, I don't know. I bought it, and it seems okay. Like, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to these people, but for people that are in the know, it's extreme. And even for the steel manufacturer too, it's extreme, which is why we're just not going to see it anymore with the bankruptcy of Crucible.
So Shawn, Tom and I both had experience now sharpening that steel, and we've not found it to be particularly difficult to sharpen. So why did you do some magic at the end to make it easy to sharpen?
Absolutely.
Or,
heat treat for the matrix, like I just told you. Heat treat for matrix, not for carbides. Carbides are carbides; they're there. And as long as you're using diamond or CBN to cut all phases flush to the apex, it's not going to be a problem. And the problem is people that are very obstinate and that are basically like, nah, dude, I'm using my Arkansas stones. You don't understand. My grandpa gave these to me. I use them for everything, and I know how to sharpen. Don't worry. And then they try to sharpen something like with high carbide at high hardness, and they're like, man, I just can't get it sharp. It must be the steel. It's like, not even for like a second did you like question in your mind that you're using the wrong thing for the job. Like if you use the diamond, you'd be that much better. And for a lot of people, they have a sour experience with diamond because they're using like this coated diamond that they've had it probably for 10 years. The diamonds are a single layer that are electroplated on the surface.
Right.
The diamonds themselves may be very hard, but you need to understand that just because something is extremely hard, it doesn't mean that it doesn't wear too. It just wears slower than the thing that you're cutting it with. But also it's brittle, and the little points on the diamond, they break off too, just like that kind of ceramic description I was giving you. So they have this like smoothed out diamond they've had for 10 years. Okay. And it's not even working anymore. If they did a side by side with a brand new one, they'd be like, oh, this is worn out. That's why it's not working. And those diamonds are like, they're sticking up and out of the surface. So they're making a really deep scratch. And so for the same grit level, the reason why they still want their Arkansas stones or this and that is because it's a much smoother finish. The surface roughness, same grit, is better because you don't have the grain sticking up and digging into the bevel and making this horrible looking bevel. But it's 2025, and for the past 10 years we've had bonded CBN and diamond, where it's basically that same abrasive, but instead of just dusted on the surface with electroplating, it's actually embedded inside of a bonding. So the abrasive is it's not sticking all the way up and out, and the bonding itself has a burnishing effect to help smooth things out. So then you get the same finish and effect that you want, just like your water stone or Arkansas stone or whatever you like to have that nice surface finish. But what I just shared with you might as well be like me coming from an alien planet and like describing something that someone's never heard of, because I think for people just don't get that. They think that everything is just the same and it's the grit of it, or, oh, I don't like diamond because it leaves that deep scratch. It's like, we haven't tried what's on the market right now. There's a lot of really good products that are on the market now.
The adherence to the Arkansas stone isn't something that we see as much in the Spyderco group, but I know it's out there, and it's confusing to me. It's like Diet Coke drinkers. They just won't let go.
Hey, don't you?
They know it's bad for them, but they won't go. I don't understand. Like, I don't know why. I don't understand the blood oath loyalty to a sharpening stone. But they're out there, and they're very.
You know what? Maybe with that analogy, I get it. Maybe I get it now. Maybe with you bringing up Diet Coke, you attacking my love of Diet Coke. Maybe now I understand. Maybe now I understand. Okay, just a little something, take the edge off. All right,
Grampy came back from the war, and he said, "We defeated Hitler because of that stone, and it's going to be my stone until I die, and I'm going to give it to my kid." Like, that's kind of the thing that they're doing, and it's wild. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't want to have the next thing.
You know what? I take everything back. Your Diet Coke analogy just made me.
I'm sorry I wounded you with the Diet Coke.
I'm gonna have to retread on everything I said. Yeah. You explain.
The sharpening world's weird though, because like it's this whole little world, and people get really focused on how they sharpen. So like I'm in a bunch of sharpening groups, and there's a big one. I post my edges in there just to get work mainly, but the arguments are like, well, why don't you use a whetstone? Why don't you use a belt grinder? Why? I'm like, they're all valid systems. This is just how I sharpen, but everyone's like, this is the only way you can get a really sharp edge. You have to.
It reminds me of welders. You ever hung out with welders? Those guys are dicks. They won't shut up about welding, and they all think they're the best welder ever. And you can't put two welders with each other because all they do is judge each other. It's a little of that. It's wild just how much ego gets wrapped up in sharpening. I don't understand it myself.
It's even more than me, even more than I can handle. I mean, I've climbed every mountain I could when it comes to sharpening, and even for me, it's too much to deal with arguing nonstop with people. And because I find also, because I've actually taught knife sharpening in person, hands on with people, teaching them how to sharpen kitchen knives on water stones. And probably some of those guys were the same guys that were just a big fish in the big pond, telling me about how sharp their knife was. And then they'd come into the class and it's like, you got a lot to learn. Like you're not always sharing in person some of this stuff that would really help. I think online, everybody could talk a big game, but yeah, it's one of those things where like, you really got to get in there in person and really start comparing things, I think, to really help grow. And I mean, that helped me grow too, just teaching the class. Yeah. But also like working at a knife store and doing the knife sharpening and stuff like that. I mean, I learned a great deal about knife sharpening. And I also learned that it's just a waste of time to argue online for that reason.
Yes.
It's like arguing about like, who's the best, like martial artist or something. Like it just
right.
like,
who's the best guitar player?
Yeah. Go get in the cage or go get on the stage. So there's no sense in arguing.
You want to talk about matrix and the effect on toughness? I imagine that's going to be the secret behind 15V and why it seems to be tougher than the testing shows. Yeah,
I mean, the testing is like a destructive testing where you're like actually straight up breaking something, versus like when we're using those edges, we're not like breaking the knife and comparing like, man, this one took more energy to break than this one. Like you got a broken knife, you don't want to test it like destructively like that, but you're trying to like, you're focusing on how well that edge holds up. And with that heat treatment, like I said, we're really focusing on the matrix surrounding the carbides. The carbides are brittle no matter what you do, but you want to keep them kind of as small as possible, which is what that PM process was doing. And Crucible did have a special process for making that 15V have very, very fine carbides, anywhere from 1 to 2 or sometimes 3 microns in size. So it had a very, very fine structure. It didn't always have that, but that was an innovation that they discovered back in the 90s when it came to the temperature that they melted the steel at, and they atomized it from a hotter temperature than they normally did with things like 10V. And that was their innovation, was being able to pull that off. Because there was actually an 18V and a 20, not to be confused with 20 CV or 20 CP, which whenever you want to talk about this subject, everyone's like, you mean 20 CV? And it's like, nah, man. So, because, it makes sense. We have 1V, 3V, 4V, we have 9V, 10V, 15V, and then 18V, and then 20V. But the 18V and 20V, they never went anywhere. It was just a laboratory melt for testing the parameters for how far they could go with adding, the vanadium and carbon in there to make all those carbides. But they determined the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze, and that 15V was just kind of like basically the limit, because there was no way they could ever get something like 18V and 20V in a production size melt. Crucible's tundish was a 5,000 pound tundish for melting that stuff. The laboratory sized one was very small, so they can atomize and do stuff at higher temperatures. But when it comes to a large vessel like that, there's just no way that they could pull that off. And that's for the same reason why we can't get the 15V with Aerosteel, is because they have that much larger of a tundish. It's anywhere from like 21,000 to 23,000 pounds in size. So they're really able to do like large batches, but they can't hold those temperatures for that long with that size without causing extreme damage, like multi-millions of dollars worth of damage. So it's just not something they're going to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's no 15V, there are absolutely going to be no 18V or 20V, but then the juice is also still probably not worth the squeeze, because the carbides themselves are always going to be more brittle. So 15V is kind of the limit. So I thought when I looked at that material, we're already seeing stuff like M4 is really good. The natural progression from M4 was something like 10V and K390. And so looking at that material, it's like, this should be kind of the next step for something for us to enjoy as knife guys. And if we can pull off the heat treat, we can get it that much better. So I thought it was cool.
The temps required to get that much vanadium in solution is crazy. Andrew must be in the industry because he's had some good comments in here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, it needs a much higher. That's what they discovered in the 93, 94 patent, is that they had to go that much. Because what happens is, like, the normal atomizing temperatures that they used, the vanadium would come out of solution as carbides. And then when they have some pictures you can look up in the patent where they just have this large, clumpy microstructure from these larger carbides. And they were able to get those much finer by basically atomizing at a much higher temperature. But even for Crucible, I mean, that's putting more wear and tear on their system to do that. You know, I mean, I talked to the president, John Sheasley, back in 2021, and he was telling me how extreme it was, where it's like, yeah, we're basically at the near limit for this material. If we go any hotter, we're basically turning steel into vapor. So it's like,
wow.
That's crazy. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, we'll go hotter and keep all the vanadium in solution, and we'll just turn everything into vapor and blow the place up, I guess. Like, so yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Really
There was no way they were ever going to be able to do production sizes for 18V or 20V. Yeah, that was always just going to be that, and that they didn't need to, you know.
Yeah,
they didn't need to. That was just to explore for the patent and see what the limits were.
You should come out with Magnamax steel. That sounds really
cool. Breathable steel. That's always been my favorite.
It's the first plasma gas steel that cuts by just melting through whatever you put it on.
Man, I just cut something and I woke up a week later. Feeling good. Yeah, what up, Andrew? What's going on, buddy?
So I've really enjoyed.
He actually drilled me. He drilled me at SHOT Show, I believe. He
really
came over to me and he asked me some secret questions to test my knowledge. And I was like, oh, this guy knows a lot.
Was there a handshake where you have to? Yeah. Was there a handshake where you take turns tickling with the pinky? Tom told me one.
he Morse coded Rex 121 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the 15V a lot. Every time I cut with it, I enjoy it. When I sharpen it, I find it's easy to work with. I love the blade finish on it. I think it looks fantastic. I have no complaints so far. I've not had a chip or a crack or an issue with the edge. And I even went to 15 degrees on a second. I managed to grab a second somewhere, and I went to 15 degrees on it just to see what would happen. And I don't normally carry knives that acute of an angle, just because I don't know. I'm worried. I don't want it to fall apart. I don't want to break it, you know? So I thought I'd go a little more extreme and see how it goes. And that's the one I carry more often than not. And I've had no problems with it. It's a wonderful steel. I certainly don't mind a patina. I don't mind it changing color. I don't care. I want it to perform. I want it to be a knife. And so, you know, chasing edge retention is the part, that's the feature I care the most about on a knife.
Yeah, and Tom's been getting some really incredible edges on there too. I mean, I've stopped by Tom's house also and checked out his work, and yeah, he does an incredible job. And
yep,
I thought also, you know, he's been getting some great edges on it. And as a sharpener, as Tom knows, like,
it's easy.
It's like the language of the steel, where like if you could sharpen it, really, some folks here. I'm only bringing this up because some folks here probably don't sharpen; they don't care about it, and which is, I understand, like. They get more focused on like the knife handles, materials, and all that stuff. They never like, okay, I don't want to scratch my knife. I don't want to like sharpen. But when you start getting the deep dive into sharpening, it just blows the whole world up when it comes to how exciting a lot of this stuff can be, because then you basically have this completely renewable performance that doesn't require you going to the gas station. It doesn't require bullets or batteries. You don't have to go somewhere special to enjoy it. It's whenever you pick that thing up, you now have this renewable thing that you get to enjoy whenever you want. And it's just an incredible feeling. And so then when you get stuff like 15V, where it's designed for you to sharpen, it was like from somebody that sharpens, put that effort in to make sure it would do that well for you. And you get the edge retention to boot. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. So
like I finally got a 15V pair of 3 yesterday in the mail.
Oh, excellent.
And immediately it went on the sharpener. And I've sharpened a lot of 15V because some people want the look right away from the factory. A lot of the Magnamaxes had really funky grinds in the factory, so I got a lot of those in. And they're so easy to make look perfect. Like, it's not a steel to be scared of, like, I'm going to be grinding on it forever. Not really. Once you're at the right angle on an edge, it gets a burr like immediately. You're not just going there and like checking, can I feel it? Can I feel a burr? It's very obvious that you're apex the edge. You can flip it. You can do the other side. You can see the burr when I do it really quickly. And you just know that I'm sharpening. I don't have to keep on going guessing if I'm getting this sharp or if I'm getting it duller.
And here's a good point too. Here's what I would ask the viewers to do is just get more critical about where you're getting your information, because if you're getting information from people that haven't even used the 15V.
There's a lot of that
are telling you basically like they're the biggest expert in the world exactly what the 15V is going to be. And then it's completely different from the people that actually like, no, I bought that and I sharpened it and this is what I thought about it. So you have these two conflicting opinions. And trust me, I've been on the receiving end of when I'm getting into a different industry and a different hobby, and I'm trying to figure out kind of the brass tacks between different things to know where my hard-earned money is going. So I'm not just like spending on something that people say is awesome that actually sucks. But and it's difficult sometimes to navigate that stuff. But I would say whatever new hobby or thing that you get into, just try to separate the people that have actually used it and have their opinion on it from experience and use, and people that are regurgitating their own just biases and egos about something, because there's a big difference in the opinions you'll receive from these people. So like you guys are like, oh, the 15V sharpens easy, and then somebody's like, expert on Reddit. I've gone through Reddit and read some of the stuff on there. Like, it's pretty wild. I don't jump in there because it's just too much. But they're like, well, technically the 15V is because it's this, so it's going to be impossible to sharpen. That reminds me at Blade. As you know, I was talking to Bob Skibitsky, who's the crucible metallurgist for the past 20 years. And he had somebody come over to him and say, like, well, the 15V, it doesn't sharpen well. It doesn't seem to get a good edge. And he pulled it out. He showed him. Bob Skibitsky checked it out. And he's like, oh, interesting. And I come over to go talk to Bob Skibitsky, and I'm like, tell me what you think about this edge. And, of course, it's a 15V micro Jimbo. And he laughed. He thought it was so funny because he's like, oh, the last guy said that it couldn't get sharp, and this is an incredible edge. Like, that guy didn't know what he's talking about. So whoever that was to talk to Bob Skibitsky, you got to work on your sharpening, bud.
Do you have a preferred edge finish that you like on that steel?
I call it the simple Rick, man. Just keep it simple. I think people, they're kind of overwhelmed with options. And I think that the best way to go about it is just one stone grit and then just one strop. So I like 400 grit, which is like, I use that Poltava metallic bonded stone, CBN. It's like a 40 to 28 micron stone. So about 400 grit is what they say. And then I use just like 1 micron diamond compound on leather. So just keep it simple. And you should, off of that 400 grit stone, if you've deburred and done everything properly, you should be shaving hair off that stone and cutting paper cleanly. And then you jump over to the strop, and then that just takes it to the next level. I think for a lot of people, they're just like, I got it kind of sharp, and now I'm going to jump to the strop. No, you're messing up. That's not how strops work. You're not using it properly. You need to get the sharpest possible off the stone, and it should be able to shave hair and make little different passes in paper. And then you jump to the strop, and it just takes it to another level where you're tree topping hairs. You have this just incredible crisp edge that has a lot of grab and bite to it. It still has some polish to it for some push cutting. You're not really going to want to shave your face and stuff with it, but that's not what my pocket knife is for. But you're still going to have that aggression and bite at the edge for when you're just lightly touching that edge on something and drawing it. It just slices with incredible aggression. Like if you could just touch it to something and just draw it very slightly, it would just burst it open. So that gives me a lot of satisfaction and enjoyment when I get an edge like that. I don't like edges that are over polished. I think over polished edges are great for shaving, but I don't like that. I don't like ragged edges where it's catching on stuff and just snagging and tearing. That's not good either. So you kind of want this kind of blend where it's incredibly crisp and it has a balance of polish and tooth. And that seems to be what gives me incredible enjoyment. So
I need to keep working at that part. I've tried taking it to 400 grit, but I don't know that I stropped it. and then I've taken it to 800 grit and left it there, and then I've taken it to 600 and I've stropped it.
Mm-hmm.
But right now what I'm doing is I'm going through a progression of stones really up to 4,000, and then I'm stropping down to 0.25. So it's a mirror, but it's sharp as hell. Typically, I prefer it toothier. I prefer it toothier because I like the feel of it when you're cutting something. It feels meaner. It's like having a better exhaust on your car. You know, you want to have a little growl in it. If it's toothier, you get that. Whereas if it's mirror, it's a little bit, I don't know, a little fussier. And that's the other thing is it's hard to keep it looking nice because you use it a little bit and all of a sudden the edge doesn't look good. So
and also like it's just a lot of work to bring up through the mirror finish.
It's a lot more work.
You can have it look mirror and then not sharp, or you can have it sharp and not look as good type thing. But to have both of those takes effort, I think. Yeah. A lot of people, you'll check out their edges to get a mirror, and you go feel the edge, and it's just completely smooth. It doesn't feel like there's any heat at the edge. There's nothing grabbing on you. You don't got to worry about it like cutting you open. And that's a great edge for shaving your face because it'll slide on the flesh without catching the flesh, and it'll cleave and pop the hairs. So it's confusing for these new people because they're like, I don't understand. It can do this, but it can't do that. Or if I do it like this, it'll do that, but not this. And so it's difficult to achieve all of those things. And that's kind of where the expertise of sharpening comes into, where like I went to SHOT Show, I believe it was SHOT Show 2024. And I brought in an edge that was both. It was the mirror finish, and it had incredible aggression and just a really crisp bite to it. And so anybody that knew anything about sharpening, when they felt that edge, they were like, dude, that's incredible. It looks like this, and then it feels like this. So that's kind of a cool thing to achieve. But it's very fleeting. It does take some effort.
Yeah, I'm getting scary sharp, but it takes forever to go through the progression. So one stone, one strop sounds way better. So
just keep it simple. And this isn't unique to 15V, by the way. Some people are like, taking notes probably, and they're like, oh my God, like this sounds like horrible for 15V. This is actually any steel. So
yeah. I found when I sharpened the 15V, I thought it would be more like 110V or 90V or Maximate, that the stones just don't feel like they remove a lot of material, and that it's a lot more passes. But I'm finding it's more like LC200N or XHP, which cut easy. When you run stones across that steel, it just goes into play. Like if you need a reprofile or something, those steels go quick. So it tells you that the stones really are effective at removing the material. And with 15V, I find it's way more like those steels than the high vanadium, high chromium, fussy steels. Those are just,
we got a really badass matrix with that heat treat.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of back and forth. I wasn't making a lot of friends with some of the demands I was making and some of the things I'd be freaking out about. I mean, it really stressed me out doing that. A lot of people think maybe that like, must be easy. You just give them the numbers and they do it. It was not like that. It was like back and forth. It's like, why is it like this? It needs to be like this. And I'm very proud of it. I'm carrying it. It's not something that I just did and I don't care about. It's something I do care a lot about, and it's something I carry every day. I carry my Mannix too, and I sharpen it. I enjoy it, and it does what I needed it to do. And I thought for a production knife, it was pretty incredible. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you said basically it sharpens similar to LC200. I mean, that's nuts. Like, I don't know if I would say that, but if that's your experience, that's incredible. I've
not done them back to back, so I can't say it's exactly the same, but it's more reminiscent. It's more reminiscent of that. I was expecting the other end of the spectrum, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I did a mirror in 12 or 13 minutes yesterday, up to 8,000 grit, and it was easy. It's just shines up well. It profiles well. It doesn't take a year to sharpen like you think it's going to take because you hear the hardness of it. If you have good stones, it's doable.
That was the coolest thing for me with that project is like, I'm doing stuff in just my own little shop here. And like in my head, a lot of the stuff makes sense. And as you guys probably know, there's a lot of things that make a lot of sense in your head that when you get it out there, maybe it doesn't make so much sense like it did perfectly neat inside your head, right?
Yeah, every day.
But, that was really cool for me is it kind of validated a lot of things that I thought of how things were working inside of the steel. And then for that to be up to a large scale, and then kind of sitting quietly with bated breath and seeing like how people were going to receive it and what their experience was going to be, and kind of sitting back, not saying anything and just waiting for them to talk about it and what they thought about it. And it was very well received, overwhelmingly positive with all the different sharpening reviews and things like that. I mean, I basically collected all of them. I screenshotted all of them, and I had fun abusing Chat GPT and basically being like, all right, make a summary from all of these screenshots of all these people's reviews. And it was really cool kind of looking back at, it's like a collage where you can't see what it looks like up close, but then when you step back and to see the big picture of it all, really for me, it was one of the greatest experiments of something that I had ideas about, and being able to see like, oh, like it does work like that. It's not just something maybe that I'm like going crazy or thinking I'm seeing in the shop. If we get a large enough sample out there for a large enough group of people, they're also going to experience the same things that I was experiencing. So I was like, this is really cool. You know, so it really helped me on my journey for understanding kind of more about how things are working between the interface of people out there using the stuff and then the material science behind it. So it was incredible. I loved it. I loved it.
I want to back up a second and talk to one of the guys in the chat here. Manic, Tom has posted a ton of sharpening content to this channel. So after you're done watching this, I'd invite you to go back and watch probably hundreds of hours of sharpening that Tom's posted, where he takes you through his process and all the stones and strops and things like that. So you'll get a good idea of the different products that are out there. But to reinforce what Shawn was talking about earlier, you want to find a sharpening medium where the grit is not just electroplated to the top of a piece of metal. That
stuff works, but if you want the cool stuff like what we're talking about, then you definitely want the bottom stuff. Maybe just message Tom after this, because my heart goes out to people that are like, okay, cool, dude, just like show me where to go buy that stuff. Like I was getting into some other hobbies here recently, and I can't tell you how frustrating it was to be like, if you get down to something that's esoteric enough, where like there's very little people with the actual knowledge and experience of like what this is and what that is, it's painful to try to be that expert yourself. I know a lot of people are like, they think it's super dorky that there's experts in things and that you have to consult the expert. But a good expert, what they do is they save you a ton of money, because they have already wasted all of their time and money doing that stuff. So you can ask them, and it's like being able to step on the shoulders of that person and continue onward. So like for that guy asking those questions, Matt, please just maybe message Tom or something and save yourself some time, because he could just tell you like, just buy these stones. You know,
I am by no means an expert on all kinds of stones, but if you're using a sharpener and it has 6x1 Edge Pro format stones, like every TS Prof or Hapstone or Edge Pro, it's really hard. Like there might be better stones in those Hapstone premium CBNs, but I can speak from experience that literally,
Tom, I'm knighting you as an expert of the stones.
Okay,
you are now knighted expert. You will now carry on the legacy and tell
that's
people.
High praise. High praise, Tom. Take it. Heavy as the crown.
There's other brands. There's Poltava. There's
Venev.
There's other brands, but metallic bonded CBN stones like these are it's a different experience. I really like the weight of these stones. They just feel different than like, these are also excellent stones, but these are resin bonded diamond stones. They're thinner, they're a lot lighter. It's a different sharpening experience. But if you want to save some money and you just want to sharpen and you don't care about doing mirrors, which honestly, most people don't need to do mirrors, buy these two stones, the 150 and the 400, and you'll sharpen anything all day, every day. That's it.
That's what we use for that's what we use for the catcher too, the 150 and the 400.
Oh, really?
So all of those samples were all sharpened with that. Just the 150, because we're starting out with 10 thousandths with no edge on there whatsoever. If you already have an edge on there, then maybe you can get away with the 400. But yeah, you start out with the 150. It's like a monster truck. It just cuts everything down flush, and then you jump over to the 400, and then you could drop from there. But yeah, Tom's recommendation, if you just wanted the quick and dirty, And you may look at those stones and maybe get some sticker shock because they're not $5 a piece, but they pay for themselves, because if you don't know nothing about those stones, you don't quite understand that there's a whole world of the stones where like there's all these different terminologies for different stones and how they wear out, where they hollow out in the middle. It's called dishing, or basically they clog up, they load up on the surface and stop cutting. So there's all this little nuance to it. But if you buy those stones, and if you don't know anything about stones, those stones are going to be less prone to those deficiencies. So you won't even know that those stones are mitigating a lot of frustration when it comes to sharpening.
And these are the other ones. So Hapstone makes premium CBNs. Their non-premium CBNs are called starts. For the budget, they are the best. I've heard this from every person I know that's used them. They're the best entry-level stones. Like Jared Neves, I watched a video the other day. He did a video, said this is without question, these are the stones to get if you have a sharpener. And
because you use them dry, you can use them dry, and they're not prone to loading. So it's a really big deal. Now, they're not going to mirror polish as well because the metallic bonding kind of scuffs it up. But when you get resin's going to be much better for polishing. Okay, we'll just get the resin for everything. Well, the resin loads up. It loads and it stops cutting as well. And it needs more attention to detail to get the resin to work better for your mirror polishes. Versus like if you just needed the monster truck stone that's just going to plow through whatever you need, you don't have to be a stone dork. Like just get the metallic bonded stones and you're going to be good to go.
There's someone, I posted a thing in the group the other day, because I mean this, of all the money I spent on knife crap, this one stone is literally paid for itself 50 times over, because this is I use this stone on every knife I sharpen. It really does make a big difference. Your abrasives, like when you get in tune with it and you learn how it works and you understand how much material is coming off and what the limitations are, anything's possible. Like you can sharpen anything with these stones. It really is a do-all.
I switched from diamond resin to metallic bonded CBN maybe a year ago, and it saved me a ton of time because I spent a lot less time chasing down scratches. And the diamonds just seem to scratch differently than the CBNs due to the shape of the material. And the CBNs are just much nicer. I get a better finish.
I mean, the manufacturer could use a different abrasive shape for their diamond. So it's not necessarily that. Yeah, it's not necessarily that like, well, CBN has this universal quality. No, if we're looking at like the different shapes and types of diamond and CBN, there's definitely overlap between them. And the CBN is like for like machining with heat and pressure, which we don't experience with our knife sharpening. But for whatever reason, the diamond they select for the metallic bonded, the shape of it is not conducive for hand sharpening speeds and feeds, so to speak, versus the CBN one has sharper facets on it. That's just a lot better for when you're sharpening stuff at hand speed and hand pressures. So it works better. It will work better. When you go out and buy those stones, you just get the CBN one for that reason. But it's not necessarily that like diamond is universally like that shape that's not conducive for what we're trying to do with it. It's just for whatever reason, the engineer that made that stone that selected that diamond, they shouldn't have used that diamond.
The thing I find interesting is like, I don't know how much CBN costs or what else it's used for, but it's weird that like they all cost like $15 more a stone to get CBN over diamond. Yeah,
it's economy of scale is what's happening. So it's not necessarily that it's inherently more expensive, but when we're talking about economies of scale, they make a lot more diamond than they make CBN. So that increases the raw material cost of that CBN because there's less of it. So it's used for grinding steels and things like that. The diamond is not as good for grinding at high heat because diamond is basically just carbon. Carbon's soluble inside of the iron structure of the steel. So if you're grinding lots of steel at high heat and high pressure with diamond, at high temperatures, the diamond breaks down and is soluble into the steel that you're trying to grind. So it's a big bummer. Versus the CBN, it's more inert and it's stable. And so it doesn't break down at those higher temperatures. But that's for like grinding operations where they have a big wheel of that stuff and they're sitting there just grinding it down, making sparks and stuff like that. We're probably not doing that with our little fixed angle systems, unless you're like just methed out or something. I don't know. Maybe anything's possible.
Sometimes when I'm doing tips, I do tips and I'm really getting going fast. My fingers so hot.
Right. I mean, so like for my 2x72 grinder, they do make like a CBN belt and a diamond belt, and it's got Kevlar backing and it's electroplated. But that belt is like $800. So it's like $800 could buy a lot of ceramic. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'll get to it eventually because, you know,
sure.
when with the PM steels, carbides are like anywhere from like 1 to 3 micron. And it's like at larger sizes, you don't really have the abrasive isn't as interacting with the individual carbides as much. It's kind of like there's more matrix in carbide. So it's still kind of like working around the matrix and scooping around them. But, you know, it's still interacting, definitely. I mean, it's still wearing out my abrasive faster, but switching a belt, you know, that's like $8 is still cheaper than something that's just one single belt that's $800 that's still going to wear out. So it's the juice isn't quite worth the squeeze yet. If there was, I mean, if they could get those belts down to maybe $80, it'd be worth it, but $800 is not quite.
We need some hero to go buy out all those belts and drive up the demand to manufacture them so the cost goes down.
Yeah. Economy of scale is a beautiful thing. Yeah, that's why the diamond is cheaper after all. But our industry is just, it's really small. I mean, here's a crazy thought. Our industry, the knife industry is so small, we can't even afford our own PM facility for just making knife steel. Like, that's how small the knife industry is. So you guys go to Blade Show, it's pretty big. But really, it's kind of a smaller show. Like if you go to SHOT Show, I mean, that just the difference. If you can gauge that as far as that being the size of the industry, because Blade Show is the world's biggest knife show, and SHOT Show just dwarfs it. You know, so if you think about and you know what dwarfs SHOT Show is the concrete show that they have. I think there's a big concrete convention that's like massive. So you want to talk about sizes of industries, you know what I mean? And the knife industry is so small that these PM steels that we think are the world and they're made specially for knives and this and that, we're kind of siphoning off of a much, much larger industry because there is no. Even with all of the knife companies, you know, maybe buying up as much of the knife steel as they can, they still can't afford a giant steel mill that's making steel just for them, just PM steel just for them. So not quite. That's how expensive that technology is, and that's how small the knife industry is.
Like if you look at all the knife Facebook groups and like the Millie Club's big, we got almost 20,000 members. Like, go to any other niche specific hobby and like. I mean, like cologne groups have 200,000 people in it. And like, who cares about that? Like, that's their jam. We have our jam, but like, you'd be surprised how popular some things are compared to knives. And
a lot more people wear cologne than carry a pocket knife.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway from that one.
There's still just a weird stigma, I think, with knives. And I think some of the, maybe not the knives, but maybe the people that are attracted to knives kind of, maybe for some people it's kind of off-putting, but I think what's cool about the Millie Club is it kind of like it normalizes knives a lot. It's just like regular people that just like knives, and it's not weird to like knives. Knives is like man's first tool, and there's a lot of really cool technology and art and just manufacturing prowess that goes into it. And I think if just a normal person were to jump in the group and check it out, they'd be like, oh, okay, I think it makes sense now. So that's what's cool about the Millie group.
One thing I appreciate about it is that it is an ancient art. As long as we've been chasing animals on the Serengeti, you know, to make dinner, we've needed something to cut them open. And, you know, it might've been stone tools and then it became obsidian and then it became, you know, something else. And, you know, along comes the Bronze Age and we go through all these different innovations, but, you know, knives have been around for a long, long time. It's a very ancient thing. It's not a new thing. It's not, you know, RC drones been around for 9 years. No. You know, this is something that's been around for centuries and centuries. And the wisdom, the collective wisdom in the whole thing is really just amazing. I think it's really cool.
It is cool. It's almost like something that's like at a subconscious level, like just a lot of just folks are just drawn to it, where like because it was like man's first tool. It's almost in our DNA maybe to be attracted to these sharp things that can cut stuff. And like I was saying earlier, I mean, the biggest draw for me is the fact that it's this renewable thing that you can carry on you at all times. I mean, yeah, eventually the blade shrinks in size like this as you over sharpen it. But the fact that without batteries, without any of that stuff, without ammo, without a place you need to go to enjoy it, without gasoline, this is something that you can just keep renewing and it keeps working. And
yeah,
that was always the biggest draw to me, and why I always love knives is because of that, the sharpening of it. And then you get these different materials and what they sharpen differently. And when I do it with this stone, then it cuts longer, or it works like this. Like, it's just endless combinations of enjoyment. So.
It's like, it's an unmasterable thing. Like, there's always knives 15 years ago are unrecognizable compared to knives now. Like, the advancements that we've made in this industry, like, stuff changes, and that's what's really cool about it. Like, you're never going to have a perfect knife. There's always going to be, you can have a better steel, you can have a better edge, you can have better handle material. Something's always going to be, you can always chase something on something so simple as a tool that we've had forever. There's always room for improvement on it.
And that's the thing too, is like our industry has gotten big enough where like people can find different things to geek out on. Like, I think it was Eric Parker, he was saying that he's more into butterfly knives now. And it's like, that's what's so cool about our knife industry, is like, you can go from maybe you just like titanium frame locks. Well, now you just like budget plastic handle knives, or now you like that it's all about ball bearings and the action and chasing the highest level of that. Or, you know what, I like bally songs, I'm going to go chase that. Or, you know, I like blades with this shape or this style. And so I always felt like whenever people would attack the steel stuff and the sharpening stuff is like, oh, that's just snobbery, that's so annoying. It's like, there's enough room in our industry for people to focus on that, you know, just like there's room for people to focus on their titanium frame locks, or people that are obsessed with carbon fiber, or people that are obsessed with ball bearings or bally songs. So there's room for all of it, you know, and that's what's always made it so fascinating, is once you get bored of one thing, like guys like me and Tom, we get bored pretty quickly with something. And I feel like knives are almost like the ultimate dork trap, because there's just, once you get focused in on something and exhaust everything there is about that one thing, you can now, oh, look at that and jump over to that. And now you're just obsessed with that. Go deep dive into that. And you're like, ooh, look at this. And you jump over to that. So like, I mean, I've gotten into stuff like bally songs, you know, I've asked Jason questions about ball bearing flippers and stuff. And it's just, oh, it's endless, you know. And that's why I like hanging out with you guys too, because you guys, I focus so much on the steel stuff. And so I'm just like deep dived on that. And then when I get to talk to you guys have deep dived on this whole other area that I haven't really gotten much time to focus on when it comes to like collecting all of these like really high-end knives from different manufacturers, and like, oh, look at this new innovation that came out with this locking system or an opening action or this style. And it's like, whew, never get bored. So it's cool.
There's an aspect to the knife making that I like, and that is the makers I really respect that are kind of at the cutting edge, so to speak. It's almost like they're making a Swiss watch more so than a knife, right? Because they're incorporating just unbelievably skilled computer precision manufacturing techniques, and they're getting, you know, increasingly lighter and more elegant, and they're simpler. So Tom and I picked up a knife blade from Koenig, where the whole thing's held together with 2 screws, and you take it apart and it's insanely simple inside. There's, you know, when you deconstruct the knife and you lay it down, like the amount of time that went into thinking about it and not over engineering it would have been easier to put in extra screws and standoffs when they're not there, you know. And the whole thing, when you put it all together, it just hums. It's a beautiful design, and the thoughtfulness that goes into that. You don't have to do any of that. Like, you can just make a knife and it cuts the shit out of things, you know, and you don't have to over engineer it. But the guys that pursue that part, I think it's really neat. It's the same as a really precision wristwatch, where I could buy a Casio and it keeps great time, or I could buy this watch that's made by hand and somebody, you know, Geppetto'd all the little parts in a workshop and put it all together, and it's a piece of art. you know, and
I mean,
appreciate
I'm
that.
not even crazy about that part of the knife world, but talking to you guys, it always gets me pumped up. Like now I'm gonna have to go to Tom's place and check that out. Like like when I went to Tom's place and I got to check out some of those knives that I've never seen before, because you're just looking at them in pictures, like that's a knife. And then I go to Tom's place and I get to check it. He's like, this is a Koenig Aris and this is that, and I'm just like, I'm trying them all out. I'm like, man, this is crazy. I could see why you get into a deep dive when it comes to like actions and fit and finish and like the precision. Those precision knives are just, that's crazy. I mean, back in the day, it was like just a Chris Reeve or something. It's like, no offense to Chris Reeve, but it's like, man, these guys have like taken something and then like they've gone up to like a whole nother level with it, that if you're looking at a picture of that knife or just watching a video of it, it does not do it justice when you're like opening and closing that thing. You're just like, oh, this is like really well made. It doesn't have to be made this well, but it definitely is. So yeah, that's a cool thing. The never-ending march of technological progress and these passionate people that just kind of keep that moving forward, keep pushing those boundaries is pretty cool. So
there's a shoe for every foot in this hobby. You know, on the other side of the coin, if I'm off-roading and I get stuck in a ditch and I need to open the hood on my truck and I can't get the hood open, I'm not going to pry it open with my Mannix, you know. There are knives out there that you could pry it open with, you know. If I had a K-bar, I could get in there. You know what I mean?
There's a simple caveman cool to stuff. Like I've definitely been an appreciator of caveman cool knives, but I haven't made them. I feel like the other end of the spectrum is so neglected that like, and then I'm only making them by hand. I'm just going to focus on that other end. But that doesn't mean I don't think it's cool to have this like big, dumb, thick, soft knife that's just designed to just be complete destruction. Like if you cut anything with it, it's going to smash it because it's not designed for that. But then it's just like, there is kind of like a shut off the higher functions of your brain cool, you know? Like you're just like, yes.
But at some point, an axe is better. At some point, a chisel is better. You know.
Oh, definitely. You don't
always want a knife. Sometimes you need something like this.
But it's the blade, man. It's just romanticizing the blade. You know, I mean, like, what is it? It turns out that they didn't even really use swords back in the day. It was more about spears and axes and stuff like that. But still, the sword is so dang cool that it's just, and it's the same way. I think it kind of shrinks down. It's the same kind of emotion with the survival knife, where it's like, this is fucking cool. So I get it. I like it.
What else is in your world, Shawn? What else should we talk about? Do you have any of your whetstones coming?
No, that ship has sailed. It's not possible. I mean, I have two small kids now, you know, and I think that your world kind of shrinks when you run into that situation. And it's for the better. I'm not complaining. I'd rather live with the kids than without them. So, but yeah, kids, the changes in the global economy after 2020, and it's just not a direction I need to go. I'm lucky I got out of that without actually, you know, losing anything. So, but I went into that not as a businessman. I went into that as a passionate person. And I've just wanted to get those stones out there to you guys. I mean, that would have been a $1,000 stone if it was made in the US. And, you know, the price on it creeped up to like 800. And it's just, it is what it was. There's no denying that the labor and cost and technology that went into that stone, it was what it was. But there was an opportunity to get that to people for under $500. And I did it, even though I knew the margin was not going to make me any money. It was basically just tying up money to tie up money. But sometimes in life, it's not about the money. It's about the passion. It's about getting something out there that's special for people to enjoy and see, kind of maybe just another perspective of this hobby where it's like, dude, this could be better. Like things could be better and perform better, but it's just not, it's not economic for it to be that way, but just to kind of at least get it out in the hands of people. So it was really cool. I like stuff like that. But once you have kids, you can't really make decisions like that anymore.
I agree.
You have people that depend on you. So I can't do stuff like that.
Tom did the same thing with sweatshirts.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going to say that. I'm so passionate about these hoodies.
nice.
I figured out how to finally get my favorite brand of hoodies in everyone's hand. Like I made a small amount of money on it. Nowhere near the amount of effort that went into getting these into people's hands, though. That's all I wanted. I didn't care if I made money. I just want people to know how much I enjoy this, and I want someone else to be able to enjoy it too.
ADHD people, man.
Yeah.
What's special about the hoodie that makes it stand
They're
out?
made in Canada. They take American cotton. They weave the fleece. This fleece is very, very soft. It's 100% cotton. It doesn't shrink. It's tough. It's heavy. The guy who owns the brand's name is Amit. He really cares. Like he's passionate about making clothes like we are about knives. And like his passion like comes through and wears off on me. And like he like sends me pictures and stuff like, what do you think about this? This is gonna be our new product. He's like really into clothes. And I just like the brand. They pay all their seamstresses like living wages in Canada. So it's just a very ethical, good brand. And I can't find anyone else who creates wholesale level clothing that's anywhere can compete with this at all. And it just happens to fit me perfectly. And I just like it. And I've tried every hoodie you can imagine that's been well rated. And I always come back to House of Blanks.
Tom, I think if any other person said that they tried every other hoodie, like I wouldn't believe them. But if it's you, I believe you.
There's about 20 of them over there. There's a couple over there, a couple over there. I always
Shawn, he's been wearing me out with fucking sweatshirt talk for years. And then he decides to do this hoodie. He's like, whatever, man, we're gonna have a sweatshirt. It's gonna be awesome.
I wish I knew how special the hoodie. I just thought it was just a hoodie. It said Millie Club.
I gotta tell you, I walked into it wildly skeptical and I barely bought one, and I'm like, it's just gonna be a sweatshirt. And then it shows up and it's 2 pounds. The thing weighs 2 pounds dry.
Wow.
And it's awesome. And when I wear it, I feel awesome. I feel cooler. It like fits you really nice and the material's rigid. You'd swear it's like it's durable like a denim jacket, but it's not. It's just a sweatshirt.
So it's the Koenig. It's the Koenig of sweatshirts.
It's like if Carhartt was what Carhartt thinks it is, it would be this sweatshirt. It's amazing.
The thing I can't stand about once I got spoiled with 100% cotton sweatshirts that don't get all pills on them like Carhartt does.
Okay.
That was like, and I understood that like you don't have to have a sweatshirt that feels like it gets worn out immediately. I was like, oh, that's great. The one I wear the most, I've had for 4 years, and I wear it every single day. I sleep in it. It just lasts. I enjoy that it's broken in now. Like if it was a knife, I wouldn't enjoy like the little imperfections and the little rips and the little worn out spots, but it's living well and it's living a good life.
Mine turned into my winter coat and I couldn't believe
I didn't even know any of that. Now that I know, I want a sweatshirt.
Someday maybe we'll do another run.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we need to. It's the ultimate sweatshirt for the the ultimate dork group, huh?
That's right.
People that dork out. Hey, people that dork out on just stuff.
My favorite. That is actually my favorite thing about the group. Like, there's a lot of favorite things, but the fact that I can talk about sweatshirts, and I don't care if 95% of people don't care. That there's 5% of people who are like, what? I can get into sweatshirts. Like, that's something I can learn. I can buy that. I can be interested in something cool. I want a new hobby. I want to get dork out about something with somebody. And there's always someone else that's into whatever you have to say in the group.
Well, here's the cool thing. I mean, how many of those sweatshirts did you buy? And then now that you just told me that, and if you sell more sweatshirts, I don't have to buy all those different sweatshirts to figure out what you learned. I can then you're the expert. I learned from you. I buy that thing. Satisfaction. I didn't have to jump through 20 different hoops to be like, okay, this is the best. It's like, it's already been figured out.
I can put my right hand on my ass and solemnly swear that Tom has tried them all. He knows.
Well, he just showed us.
Save your time. Save your money.
I believe him. Yeah. Well, next run of sweatshirts, I'm definitely going to get one then. So I didn't realize it was that special. I just thought it was just like, it says Millie, which I'm fine with that, but I didn't realize. Now that I know the geekery behind it, it's more exciting.
Right.
It's fun to geek out about stuff. And That's one thing I love about you is your passion about steel, and it comes out. It really does. It comes out, and it makes me excited for the hobby. It makes me excited about things that why would I be interested in that? But someone telling me a story with like passion behind it is really motivating to like tell me more. I want to get into it. Like this person cares about what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that's what makes the world so cool is there's just not enough time to geek out on everything. So we all kind of have to go our separate ways and geek out on our passions. And then if we all come together and share that stuff, oh man, how much cooler does that make our world? So it's awesome. I like it.
Although sometimes, Shawn, I do feel like Harry talking to Dumbledore when I'm talking to you, and we'll be messaging back and forth, and you're like sliding me screenshots of stuff, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I barely understand what I'm looking at, and then you'll explain a little bit, and I'll go, I almost understand what he's trying to tell me. It's how do I put this? I don't know. I love it because it makes me excited that I don't feel like a dum-dum, but I don't know everything. And when I talk to you about metallurgy and matrices and steel and all that, I get so much from it. And anyway,
yeah,
I
mean, a graph is just like when you get complex enough, a graph is probably just the best way to explain something. Because then sometimes you can see if you're a visual learner, I guess too, because you can see how far apart the things are that you're comparing, and then this is the numbers to stuff. And yeah, it gets to a certain point with some of that stuff where it's just beyond intuition. You have to have numbers to things. So, all right.
I actually drew some by hand for when we get in these steel arguments, just because I got tired of like using 500 words to explain what a graph can do. So I just drew one of these, like toughness versus retention.
There you go. And it takes a lot of patience. Yours. There you go.
You did this one isn't showing up. It's sharpness versus retention on serrated versus plain. It looks like
I thought that was cool. Yeah, I plotted that out from some data. So I thought, but then I simplified it, and I think
that was good.
I think we need to just kind of keep that effort up because the knife world isn't big enough for everybody to just know this stuff, and a lot of that stuff is just not intuitive. And I think that we need to kind of avoid the knee-jerk reaction of like, oh, well, you should know that. Like, no, nobody should know that stuff. It is quite specialized information. It's pretty specialized information. And if we have patience for people when we share that stuff, it makes this community more interesting. It's such a huge turnoff when you're trying to learn something and you're frustrated and you're overwhelmed with all the information. You're just trying to ask what seems like a simple question. And people just jump down your throat. It's like, dude, I don't want to learn this shit anyways. Fuck off. Like, so I get it. I've been there. So
that's kind of a core principle in the group. No matter how far down the road you get in enlightenment and knives, take 5 seconds to answer a question for a newbie. You were a newbie once. Answer his question.
And you know what? And also, okay, maybe a newbie can get teased a little bit. And you got to have a sense of humor. Okay, you gotta have a sense of humor. Okay?
I can't nerf the world, but when somebody says what's the difference between VG10 and Maximit, maybe they've never asked before.
Yeah, Millie Club, you'll get the correct information. You get a little humor in there too. Don't take it personally.
Sure.
One thing because we love. A nice thing that's changed over time is I used to see like the same questions all the time, and I always feel like it is my job to go inform the masses and answer this question. I don't have to do that anymore because there's enough other people that are now really smart that can go do that better than me, and they're on the group commenting and having fun. So I don't have to get involved in half the stuff I used to think I was responsible for informing. Anymore. Like everyone's out there is getting smarter at the same time.
It's a smart group. If you guys are watching this, you guys got big brains, man. You guys are smart. So yeah, it's awesome. Makes the community sweet. I like it.
Well, I'm excited to try Magnamax. I imagine we're going to see a mule first. The Spyderco is very predictable in their process. They like to do a mule, and then we'll probably see it show up on a golden knife, right? And that'd be my guess. So, man, sooner the better. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be everywhere pretty quick. So, careful what you Careful what you wish for, right? I mean, we've already seen this with MagnaCut, where it's like, man, we're dying to try this. And then like, I'm kind of overwhelmed with MagnaCut. I want something more obscure. Like, and we probably will see the same thing with Magnamax, where everyone's dying to try it, and then you're sick of it. So, but my takeaway from that is the properties of that material are still what they are, regardless of your emotions about it. So it's a good steel. It will be a good steel 5 years from now when people are sick of it. It will be a good steel before it comes out here, because it's already been well tested before it's come out. So yeah, it should be really exciting to have people get their hands on it. And I think what's cool about a material like that, it allows you to focus more on your sharpening. It allows makers to focus more on their designs and things like that, where if we start kind of consolidating some of these steels out there, so it's not just like, well, there's 100 different steels to try. No, there's like more like 10 different steels or 15 different steels to try. I mean, I think that helps us as an industry grow and focus more on things that people enjoy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. There's I don't know the number. I need to total it up, but there's probably close to 50 blade steels that are current, that are on Laren's chart, on his magical chart. The one I should tattoo on my chest right here.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many. I'd have to count them, but
there's probably in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 on there. And I don't know that we need 40 or 50, because sometimes we start picking nits about the differences, and there's just they're very similar. And you're right.
There's a lot of overlap, and heat treat can really be the bigger factor more than the name of the steel. And then the sharpening, of course, also, just like when we were getting into the M4 testing on the Pete's testing. I mean, a lot of that could be ruled out as the sharpening, and then from their geometry, and then from their heat treatment and things like that.
I wish I could pull that up right now, but it's not easy to get to.
Sure.
But it's wild. Like he did 900 cuts with M4, and then he did another one with 170. So, that's a wild variation there. And as far as I know, the edges were the same degrees per side, but you don't know how thick it is behind the edge. You don't know how beefy the blade is, or whether it was a Scandi grind, or whether it was a full flat, or
so how the burr was removed, what abrasive was used, and then like how was it made, because doing stuff with the work sharp and things like that, and that could change everything. That could definitely change everything. I mean, for the Catra testing, everything is done with the fixed angle system to get that flat bevel on there. I mean, if you start doing stuff like freehand sharpening, you start introducing some convexity in there. At the shoulder, it's 15. You're like, I don't know what the problem is. But the edge itself is more bulbous at the tip near the apex where that is. And so that would reduce your edge retention, even though, I'm holding 15. I got the 15 shoulder down here. Well, not quite, because it's like that. It's not longer. Right. Like the edge would be longer if it's flatter versus it's shorter. And then at the end, it's actually like 20 degrees per side. And so that can make a difference when you're doing cut testing, because as edges wear, they get more and more basically like this. They wear back into that bevel there. And so, you'll start like this, you'll end like that. But if you're already convexed and then it starts wearing, it wears into thicker material. And so it dulls kind of more rapidly. So that can be a huge factor. And you don't really see people like measuring the bevels with laser edge goniometers and things like that to make sure that the geometry is what they say it is, when that has the hugest amount of variables when it comes to edge toughness and edge retention. So for a lot of guys complaining about stuff about, my knife didn't cut this long, the first place you need to look is the edge, not what the name of the steel is on the side of the blade. So that's a big deal. But that don't mean that you're going to get 420 HC to outcut Magnamax. I'm not saying that. Sure. But I'm saying if we're comparing stuff like S35V into S30V, let's start with looking at the edge first before we start.
Was it someone tested that recently? Was it Laren, where he took like a 30 degree, like 30 per side on a high edge retention steel, and then he took a 15 per side on a low edge retention steel and proved that they were if not equal, then the low edge retention steel was better. Somebody did that recently. Do you remember, Tom?
Do not remember.
Was it you, Shawn?
I mean, there's data inside of the knife engineering book that Laren made, and we can. I've showed that too. I've graphed that out where I use the predictive catcher
somebody
formula.
showed that, and I can't remember.
Well, I took the predictive catcher formula and I compared the Magnamax to the 52-100, and I showed you what happens when you have different edge angles and how you can actually get them to match if you have the edge angle. Okay. Different. Versus when they're the same, I mean, it's like this and this. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, Magnamax cuts longer because it's harder, has harder carbide, so it resists the wear longer, so it does more cards cut. Versus like below, if you change the edge angle, you can actually get it so the 52-100 and the Magnamax cut the same. And it's like, for some people, it's just mind-blowing. It's like, well, what are you talking about? That's impossible. That says Magnamax. There's no way that could cut as long as that one says 52-100. It's like, well, let's stop looking at the names of the steel and start actually looking at the factors that make them perform. And if you take the edge angle on the 52-100 and do like 10 degrees per side, and if you do 20 degrees per side on the Magnamax, then it's going to go, whoop, they're going to be more equal to each other, if not the 52-100 cut longer. So that's how powerful edge geometry is. And then that same thing, if we impact the edge and if it's 10 degrees per side, it doesn't matter how tough the steel is, it's going to take extreme damage at 10 degrees per side. That's extreme. You're not going to really see a 10 degree per side edge in reality. But then you take the 20 degree per side, which is like 40 inclusive, you impact that edge, even a brittle steel, it's going to be a lot tougher than the toughest steel at the lower edge geometry. So the edge is so extremely powerful for being able to get different performance factors. But we have an audience of people that are so fixated on the names of the steel that they can't look past that. It's like not being able to look past your own nose, so to speak. Like, you really need to, if you want to understand this stuff and how it actually works, you need to actually start understanding how it actually works. And it comes down to the edge. So if you're not sharpening your knife, you're missing out on probably the largest factor when it comes to performance, more than just like, it's such a, and people get burned out on steel because they're so one-dimensional about it, where they're chasing the steel and they're listening. This guy said this and that guy said that, and oh, I have that now. And then, man, I'm disappointed. Like, in my experience, it doesn't seem to be working that way. And this, you got people like all discussing this thing. They're not even discussing the actual thing that's making it work. And it's just, you read what these people are saying. It becomes really disheartening, because it's like, man, they're missing out on a whole world of actually how this is working, and what would make it even more exciting than surface level just consumerism about it. Like, go deeper. It's way more, I promise you, it's more exciting if you start sharpening and really enjoying your knife, because now when you go to cut stuff with your knife, you know that you can make that edge back sharper than it was again. And I can't tell you how stressful it is when you don't have that ability. And every time you're using it and cutting your knife, you're knowing that, like, man, I can't bring that back. Like, this sucks. Like, it's kind of like stressful, versus like makes it 10 times more enjoyable when you can put your edge back on there. So yeah, you got to go deeper. The edge angle and all that stuff is extremely important. And then having that renewable feature is also extremely important. If people watch this, the takeaway you need is that if you're not sharpening, you are basically missing about probably 70% of the enjoyment when it comes to different steels and knives. So
I always say sharpening was a side quest to this hobby, but now it's become like its own hobby. Like, you get to make two things make each other better. You can use your knife without fear, and you can have a sense of accomplishment. What?
No fear.
No fear. But like,
no steel,
I was that way before I sharpened, and before I put my own edges. I wouldn't cut anything but a piece of paper. Like, I don't want my edges to be dull, because I don't know how to fix it. Because I want my knives to be sharp, and I want it to look sharp and look cool. Well, what can I cut? You can't really do anything but cut open boxes. But if you actually want to use your knife, sharpen it. Like, I get some knives in, and I actually enjoy, like, really chipped off tip, just jacked up, serrated looking edge. There's so many chips in it. And that person really got to enjoy the hell out of their knife. And even if you think your knife is beyond repair, usually you can save it. And usually you can keep on working with that same tool for a long time. It's really hard to kill these things.
Yep. He agrees, Tom. Look.
I agree.
Well, gentlemen, we've been going for a while.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
I'm just exhausted from kids, man. when they're 2 and 4 years old, it's I mean, they're my world. But
Are you watching lots of Daniel Tiger?
Well, I'm just all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right now, their current favorite that we don't understand it because they don't even know why they like it. It's Humpty Dumpty, just the basic nursery rhyme song from YouTube. We Chromecast it on the TV, and we just have to watch. They're like Humpty Dumpty, and like we're at gunpoint. We're like, okay, like
Dada, Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah, like, they don't ask nice. They're like Humpty Dumpty.
Right.
Yeah, we just want the screaming to stop. Yeah, we just don't want them to yell anymore. So we're just like, okay, we'll put the Humpty Dumpty on. We put the Humpty Dumpty on and then it's on YouTube, so it's only like a 5-minute video. So then after it ends, they're like, Humpty Dumpty. We're like, dude, please, why Humpty Dumpty? Why can't it be something that's like an hour long so I can go focus on my work or something?
My daughter,
long enough for me to be able to take a nap. Come on.
My daughter's really into like Disney shows that are for like more like 12-year-old girls, like really into Zombies is the name of the show, and Descendants. So I don't hate it as much as watching Humpty Dumpty, but it's now officially summertime for the kids. So I'm going to be getting a lot more influx of the Disney Channel on my TV.
Yeah, man.
It's going to be a fun summer. I'm excited for this, though. Stay-at-home dad life is kind of hard to beat. It's work. It's trying, but it's worth it.
All right, boys.
We'll watch from afar, Tom.
What?
Well,
we'll watch from afar.
I'm gonna call it a night. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go rack out so I can wake up.
You gentlemen have a nice evening. Shawn, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always to talk to you, and appreciate your time. And
thank you. Yeah, let's go have a dinner next year at Blade Show 2026.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Together and just sit down and hang out.
Yeah. Take a breath.
I was wiped out this year because of kids. I kind of went on that. It was like a little break from the kids, but also I was just like.
Before we go, I have to tell you something real quick. I called you the week before Blade in the middle of the afternoon, and I got you on the phone for just a few minutes, and I was legitimately worried about you because I couldn't tell if you were upset or if I woke you up from a nap. But I was like, I think he was sleeping because when we talked, you were giving me one-word answers. I was like, man, maybe I pissed him off or something. Maybe I.
No, I'm just tired. Just tired from kids, man. The kids are a ton of fun. They're amazing.
You're defeated.
But it was just dude, the energy was drained from my body. I was just like autopilot, just doing the chores, like. Yep. Cleaning dishes and cleaning because they'll make little messes on the floor. You got to clean up. But then, like when it's the 20th time of that day, you're worn out.
Dude, you just got to give up and just embrace the mess and just live in the squalor like me. Because you pick it up, it's coming right back. You just accept.
Well, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel right now because they're 2 and 4 years old. So it's like we can start living in a clean home again.
I've told you before, Tom. Your son's old enough now that you can recruit him and you can make him clean up.
Oh, he's learned that when he gets to clean up, he goes, well, I get Minecraft dollars or Minebucks and Roblox dollars.
Oh, he's extorting you?
Oh, yeah. And his sense of how much money is worth is very distorted. Like, he'll go put away a soda can. Like, so is that $10 now? I'm like, this is smart.
No. Well, gentlemen, have a nice evening. We'll catch up next time, and thanks for watching, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thanks again, folks. Thank you.